Chapter 131 Expelling the Blood Phantom Vine. Although the people outside could not hear the sound, they could see the situation inside. Yang Chen could only take one step forward before he immediately turned into a huge cocoon bound by the blood-colored vine. Not even a little of his figure could be seen anymore. Ah. Sun Qingshu had been able to come over because of her relationship with Yang Chen, but she hadn't anticipated this kind of situation and immediately cried out in fear. Who is losing their head? Why has she come here? One elder watching the situation inside berated Sun Qingshu after hearing her shout. Only then did Sun Qingshu discover that the huge cocoon formed around Yang Chen was still mobile and was slowly moving towards Elder Hua. Although those blood-colored vines had covered Yang Chen tightly, they were only enclosing him on the outside and could not touch Yang Chen's body. How is he able to do that? Looking at this scene, nobody had any more doubt about Yang Chen's ability to handle the blood phantom vine. Although the vine had attacked Yang Chen, it did not dare to get close to his body. Everyone seeing this was baffled. The blood phantom vine, in front of whom even Elder Hua had been at her wits' end, for which several tens of thousands of disciples of the Clear Sky sect had been unable to find a solution. How could a trifling foundation stage youngster accomplish this? Naturally Yang Chen could not explain this. The blood phantom vine was a name famous even in the immortal realm for its dreadfulness. Apart from a few almighty experts, even if it was a Great Principle Golden Immortal, in front of a mature blood phantom vine, they also didn't have any means to control it. There was only one opportunity to control the blood phantom vine, and that was to restrain it in its infancy. The infant stage of the blood phantom vine was not counted in years, but rather the time before the blood phantom vine had ascended and was able to suck an immortal's blood. In his previous life, Hua Wanting was able to endure the torment of the blood phantom vine for 100 years before struggling free from it and throwing it away. Only, at that time, she had been relying on her formidable cultivation, while Yang Chen was relying on some herbs and the essence of the 8th metal spirit power to control it. The blood phantom vine was classified as second wood, the entire vine class were herbaceous plants, so it could be classified as second wood. Yang Chen previous talk with Sun Qingshu in regards to improving his own second wood spirit power was precisely because of this. After he would subdue this blood phantom vine, which had been stuffing itself up with the blood of an expert infinitely near the Dacheng stage, it would be sufficient to allow his cultivation increase with redoubled power. The 8th metal spirit power wrapping up his entire body was precisely restraining the second wood. After adding some formidable herbs, the blood phantom vine basically did not dare to come close to his body, even if it did not have a consciousness, this kind of plants had instincts to sense danger. Although it did not have any contact, the blood-colored vine had still covered Yang Chen tightly. But wherever Yang Chen stepped, the vine in that area got out of the way. Very soon, Yang Chen's huge cocoon had wiggled to the center of the courtyard, getting close to the region where Elder Hua Wanting was sitting upright. The hearts of the sect master and the few elders watching from the outside were hanging in their throats. This was the most crucial point, and although Yang Chen had proved that the blood phantom vine could not injure him for the time being, removing the vine covering the entire body of Hua Wanting was not exactly a simple matter. Within the darkness cast by the omnipresent vine, Yang Chen walked step by step, closing in on Hua Wanting's body, and then stopped. Using his spiritual awareness, he began to examine the circumstances there. The blood phantom vine was capable of effectively isolating spiritual awareness probes, so Yang Chen was only capable of using the movement on the ground to sense Hua Wanting's circumstances. Hua Wanting was still alive and fighting tenaciously, but the signs of her life had already dropped to a minimum. Yang Chen could not even sense her heartbeat. But Yang Chen knew that Hua Wanting had controlled the systems necessary for living to the greatest extent because the quicker the blood flow, the quicker the blood phantom vine would suck the blood. At this moment, Hua Wanting's body had formed a balance with the blood phantom vine. If it were not Little Shu, I would have not come here to save you. Yang Chen said, unafraid that anyone outside would hear it. He knew that the layers of restrictions completely isolated sound. These words were said only for Hua Wanting to hear. The talented disciple with an almost completely full wood spirit root, but unexpectedly, just because of someone's selfishness, someone played tricks with her cultivation method, wasting a few decades of her cultivation and producing mixed spirit power throughout her entire body. Yang Chen was as if talking to himself, like venting his anger. The Clear Sky sect is still considered to be an upright sect. Ha! What a joke. If someone among the upper echelons of the Clear Sky sect heard his words at this moment, nobody would believe that he was meticulously trying to save Hua Wanting and would only be under the impression that, since his realm was very low, he was unable to control his anger. But Yang Chen knew that he was saying all of this for Hua Wanting to hear. Hua Wanting had been sober-headed from the beginning and had never loosened control of her body in her fight against the blood phantom vine. Hua Wanting heard every word and every letter of what Yang Chen was saying clearly. While speaking, Yang Chen's hand had already begun to extend towards Hua Wanting's body. Hua Wanting, sitting upright, was naturally able to sense Yang Chen's movement, but Yang Chen's casual movement had almost made her mind lose her defense. She had reached this equilibrium after a hard struggle, believing that after some more time, she could struggle to the winning position and afterwards slowly take care of this blood phantom vine. But if Yang Chen displaced her slightly, her entire fight of 100 years was going to be burnt. Unfortunately, despite being anxious, her body was not capable of making even the slightest movement, not even a warning movement or sound. She could also not issue even a trace of spiritual awareness because she was being blocked by the vines. Yang Chen's hand stopped half an inch away from Hua Wanting. The intense medicinal Kai and the 8th metal spirit power made the vine surrounding Hua Wanting's body move a little bit, but not much. This was not as bad as giving rise to backlash from the spirit power inside Elder Hua's body. Elder Hua's body was sealed tightly. Yang Chen only knew that this meant that she was alive, but he did not know that what kind of circumstances were under the blood phantom vine. Once the vine displaced, it immediately revealed a crack, and Yang Chen's spiritual awareness immediately rushed in through that crack. In the moment, Yang Chen knew the exact situation. Just as he had anticipated, the blood phantom vine's root had already penetrated into Elder Hua's stomach, and the master root had penetrated her heart, swallowing the blood produced in her body at all times. No wonder he could not sense any pulse, there simply was no pulse. But even under these circumstances Elder Hua was alive, which clearly proved how formidable she was. No wonder she shook the heavens and the earth in the future. After being tempered for 100 years there, her willpower had become extremely firm and persistent. What else could cause any problems for her? I am going to take care of this blood phantom vine, but you have to cooperate with me. Yang Chen said this like a doctor giving instructions to a sick person and then suddenly added. What stupid thing I am doing. You can't hear anything. In short, he had already warned Hua Wanting to make her preparations, but at the same time also cleverly covered his tracks. I believed you couldn't hear anything, so no one can blame me. The blood phantom root's master vein had already penetrated Hua Wanting's heart, and there were also many fibrous roots filling her arteries. Removing them was not an easy matter. In any case, since you can't hear me, you also won't mind a little bit of pain. Yang Chen said again, but suddenly many long needles appeared within his hand. These long needles were completely ordinary. Apart from being hollow, they didn't have any speciality, even the materials used were completely ordinary. Previously, Yang Chen hadn't thought that he was going to save Hua Wanting this time, so he hadn't prepared enough and had only refined them while waiting for Zhu Sulin, hurriedly and crudely. But despite being simple, they were already sufficient at this moment. The main use of hollow acupuncture needles was to input medicinal Kai into the body of Elder Hua Wanting, so using precious materials would just be a waste. With one shake of his hand the needle punctured Hua Wanting's skin. Luckily, this region was Elder Hua's arm, and once the needle entered, a portion of dense medicine Kai, carrying 8 metal spirit power with it, immediately rushed forth. The blood phantom vine in the vein where the needle had entered began to withdraw at a rapid speed. But within 100 years, these vines had already fused together with Elder Hua's body, so suddenly being forcibly separated produced an immense pain, as if flesh was being ripped apart. The fierce pain made Hua Wanting almost lose her mind. But fortunately Yang Chen had already warned her, so she was prepared, and after enduring these 100 years of constant torment, her capability to endure pain had increased by a large extent. Her mental state had become even more tenacious than heavenly silk, forcibly enduring the pain without budging even a little. Other regions hadn't loosened even a little. Along with Yang Chen putting in the medicinal Kai and spirit flow in a constant stream, the blood phantom vine in Hua Wanting's veins began to slowly pull back, and very soon the blood demon vine could neither enter nor control that region again. As soon as the sensation and control of this region were restored, Hua Wanting's heart relaxed. Yang Chen really was able to settle the blood phantom vine and was not just making trouble. Outside, the sect leader and the elders of the Clear Sky sect had nervously clenched their fists. Until now, everything appeared to be normal, and this also made their desire even greater. The closer to success they thought they were, the more nervous they got. This concerned the life of a defying stage expert. If they had Hua Wanting, Clear Sky sect would be even stronger than currently. At this moment, Yang Chen's movement had been stopped. His spirit power had already been exhausted by being crazily pushed into the body of a defying stage expert for just a moment. This was not strange at all. Although Yang Chen had already reached the foundation stage, this was still quite lacking to consume the blood phantom vine, which had caused so much suffering to Hua Wanting. Yang Chen stopping his movements made Hua Wanting so nervous that her heart had come to her throat. Fortunately, after some moments of rest, Yang Chen again began to push out medicinal Kai and spirit power, which started increasing the area under Hua Wanting's control. Under the cover of the vines, other people could not see what kind of thing Yang Chen had used, as nobody was concerned about what kind of elixir Yang Chen had used to recover his spirit power. Everyone was only looking at the vine trembling incessantly within the courtyard. This kind of change was something they had never seen before. The process seemed to be very simple. Yang Chen was pushing his medicinal Kai and spirit power into her body, but this process lasted for a full 10 days. Only then was Yang Chen able to expel the vine from one arm of Hua Wanting. The needle with medicinal power and 8 metal spirit power was pressed into Hua Wanting's vein to block the blood phantom vine from entering again. Hua Wanting had also realized this point, so she didn't let her wood attribute spirit power appear in that area, fearing that, if she was not careful, she might counteract Yang Chen's pathetic 8 metal spirit power, which could cause all of this hard work to go to waste. I am on the point of dying, I must go out to recover. After inserting the needle, Yang Chen, who had completely worn himself out, spat out these words. Spending his last bits of energy, he soon slowly left the courtyard and made his way out of the courtyard at lightning speed. Afterwards, without caring for face or saying anything, he immediately fell to the ground and began to gasp for breath. The sect master of the Clear Sky sect appeared at Yang Chen's side in a flash and immediately squeezed a yuan cultivation pill into Yang Chen's mouth. Afterwards, without making a difference about being male and female, she reached out her hand to explore Yang Chen's body and passed on her spirit power, assisting Yang Chen in recovering faster. How is Elder Hua? On the side, the elders were worried about Hua Wanting. On the side, while the sect master was still helping Yang Chen recover, one of the elders asked impatiently. Shut your mouth. The sect master berated the elder. Yang Chen had already strained himself to his limits and was unable to support himself, anyone could see this, so the question was really ill-timed. The elder also realized his mistake and obediently shut up, not saying anything anymore. With the assistance of the sect master, Yang Chen only needed half a day before recovering fully to having a dragon's energy and a tiger's fierceness. Once he opened his eyes, Yang Chen directly stated the conditions inside, without anyone asking. It will still require some more time, I have already undone an arm. After he finished speaking, without saying anything anymore, he entered the courtyard again, this time changing to the other arm, and continued to work. First were the 4 limbs, then was the belly, following which was her neck, and finally he focused on the pit of her stomach. Settling all of them one by one, the only thing that remained was the master root in her heart. This entire process had already taken a full 3 months. During this whole time, the Clear Sky sect's master, together with her group of elders, had been waiting outside of the courtyard. Even Sun Qingshu was allowed to stay there because of her relation to Yang Chen. During the process of waiting, Sun Qingshu's complication was analyzed by the group of elders. With Yang Chen's warning, the sect master and the group of elders could clearly see the problem. Even Sun Qingshu's cultivation method was taken out and researched by the group of elders. What was most embarrassing for them was that this time they discovered that the problem really did lie with the cultivation method and not with Sun Qingshu's comprehension. The talented disciple of the sect had been plotted against by someone of the sect and it moreover had been discovered by an outsider. Furthermore, when that person said this in the beginning, nobody trusted him. If it were not for Yang Chen spending so much time resolving the matter of the blood phantom vine and everyone having discovered that her comprehension was not inferior, they would have been unable to find this problem. Obviously, the one most embarrassed because of this problem was precisely the sect master of the Clear Sky sect. But the matter of Elder Hua Wanting had been urgent, so it didn't need to be said, Sun Qingshu's matter could only come afterwards. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 132 An elder can also make mistakes. When only the master root was left, Yang Chen stopped. This was the most crucial step. As long as he succeeded, it implied that Elder Hua Wanting would not have to endure further torment from the blood phantom root, but this was also the most challenging step, and he wouldn't be able to achieve it with just medicinal power and spirit power. If he just wanted to remove Elder Hua Wanting's pain and resolve the blood phantom vine, it was still comparatively simple, but the problem was that Yang Chen wanted to use this opportunity and wanted to collect this blood phantom vine's root, which, although it had sucked the blood of a Da Cheng stage expert, was still only in its infancy. This was going to be a lot more troublesome. Naturally, for Yang Chen, this was not an impossible task. This was a good opportunity to show his friendship towards the Clear Sky sect, to seek benefits and furthermore an opportunity to conceal his true aim. Otherwise, in case they found out that he had collected the blood phantom vine, it would actually increase his troubles in the future, rather than decreasing them. This youngster must remove a piece of flesh from Elder Hua's chest, so I must be disrespectful. Myself requests that seniors forgive me for being disrespectful. Apart from medicinal power and spirit power, Yang Chen could only use his flying sword to remove the blood phantom vine when it had centralized in one place. Once the blood phantom vine entered the human body, it would certainly never leave, and he could only use such a cruel method. Since he pretended that Elder Hua Wanting wasn't conscious, Yang Chen naturally had to request the elders of the Clear Sky sect in order to make her understand, otherwise he would be charged with being disrespectful towards the person he had saved for no reason. Fortunately, the elders had already understood his goal, and they also knew about the blood phantom vine's characteristics, so they didn't have any objection and nodded in affirmance. I require an empty Qianqin pouch. Yang Chen raised this request towards the people of the Clear Sky sect. The courtyard is still highly toxic because of the blood phantom vine, you all cannot go in. If you come in contact with the Qianqin pouch containing the main part of the blood phantom vine, you must destroy it immediately, understood? Who could say that they wouldn't? Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. But Yang Chen obviously wasn't satisfied, so he asked again earnestly. Everyone knows this blood phantom vine is a treasure, but even Elder Hua Wanting was unable to resist it. I do not think it will be good to try. These words clearly had a hint of teaching people. The expressions on the faces of the Clear Sky sect's elders turned unsightly. But Yang Chen was as if he did not care, he continued speaking while minding his own business. Perhaps everyone can think themselves to be lucky and may think that keeping it inside their Qianqin pouch would not be a big deal. Looking around, Yang Chen glanced at the elders of the Clear Sky sect and smiled. I will take the responsibility of informing everyone that the blood phantom vine will break through that Qianqin pouch in at most 3 breaths of time. Within these 3 breaths, you must completely destroy it. The space of the Qianqin pouch being destroyed will turn the blood phantom vine into fine powder. Apart from this, there is no other good method. Although Yang Chen's words were solemn, these Yuning stage experts did not accept it. All of them were Yuning stage ancestors, but that one immature and inexperienced foundation stage youngster dared to make a show of his knowledge and experience in front of them. You must not push your luck at any cost, seniors. Yang Chen repeatedly warned them, persuading them patiently. Elder Hua's Qianqin pouch has already been smashed into pieces. I wonder if she thought she would be lucky and was instead entangled by the blood phantom vine. I have said all I could, seniors can think for themselves, this junior will immediately shut up. From the Qianqin pouch, he fished out 2 porcelain bottles and walked to Sun Qingshu and handed them to her. Little Shu, of these 2 porcelain bottles, one can make the blood phantom vine avoid you, and one can bring you relief from the high toxicity of the blood phantom vine, take them. Placing them into her hand, he warned in a loud voice again. If something happens, use them immediately, your cultivation is the lowest here, so don't try to act bravely. Although it appeared that he was repeatedly warning Sun Qingshu, in reality he was warning the elders of the Clear Sky sect in disguise. If an accident happened, it would also be an insurance for Sun Qingshu. Once he had completed this, Yang Chen extended his hand towards the sect master of the Clear Sky sect and handed over his Qianqin pouch. Then he entered the courtyard again. This is the last and most crucial step. If senior can hear me, then please prepare properly. Yang Chen said to Hua Wanting. The blood phantom vine's master root is isolated, so senior must immediately circulate your cultivation to dissolve junior's 8th metal spirit power and force the medicinal power out of your body. Without the blood phantom vine, that medicinal power will erode your body. Hua Wanting's fingers slightly moved in response to Yang Chen's proposal. This was her first movement since Yang Chen had expelled the blood phantom vine. Thanks to Yang Chen getting rid of the blood phantom vine from within her body, it left her with some strength to gain control over her body. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness had covered the entire region, so he had acutely discovered this point and was immediately pleased beyond his expectations. Having senior's cooperation, junior holds much more assurance. That kind of friendly tone, let alone speaking of the current moment, even if Hua Wanting had 99% control over her body, she would still be unable to hear any deceit even she heard this face to face. For clearing away the master root of blood phantom vine, this junior will have to remove a part of flesh above your heart. This will hurt even more, so senior, please be careful. Yang Chen first reminded her before starting his work. With just this last step left, Hua Wanting absolutely did not want to give up and slightly moved her fingers 2 times, affirming Yang Chen's words. Seeing this, Yang Chen also began his preparations calmly. The needle was directly inserted into her heart and began to pour in medicinal power and 8th metal spirit power. But this time, the master root of the blood phantom vine didn't shrink back rapidly like the other times, instead it slowly formed a small ball, but still occupied a corner in the heart. This was still near the chest, so Yang Chen carefully inserted it even deeper. The huge amount of medicinal power and spirit power started to pour in, which made the blood phantom vine leave most of the heart and concentrate in a very small section. Suddenly, Yang Chen's hand moved rapidly, a sharp flying sword directly penetrated into Elder Hua Wanting's chest, following along the root of the blood phantom vine, and rapidly sliced off a part. Immediately following this, Yang Chen threw it into a Qianqin pouch, following which, the blood phantom vine which had been filling up the courtyard was like it had suddenly received a great pull and began to concentrate on Yang Chen's hand. During this commotion, nobody noticed that the master root of the blood phantom vine had entered the achievement ring on Yang Chen's hand. The majority of the blood phantom vine was directly sucked in by the achievement ring, and only a small part was actually placed into the Qianqin pouch. Originally, with Yang Chen in everyone's field of view, nobody would have thought that he could cheat. The blood phantom vine which was spread everywhere in the courtyard had all been squeezed into the Qianqin pouch and no traces of it were left within the courtyard. Yang Chen also rushed directly to the edge of the restriction and hurriedly used the method to open it and threw that Qianqin pouch outside. Once he threw out the Qianqin pouch, Yang Chen no longer stayed and directly rushed back to Hua Wanting, whose body was finally free from the vine. In midair, a porcelain bottle had appeared within his hands. Once he stopped, the porcelain bottle had already been opened and the medicinal powder was quickly sprayed on Elder Hua Wanting's chest wound. Being sucked dry for almost 100 years by the blood phantom vine, Elder Hua Wanting's body didn't have even a drop of blood, so even with such a huge wound, not even a drop had trickled out. Her face was incomparably pale, resembling a corpse. Once the medicinal powder was sprayed on her, the wound began to heal and a trace of flesh began to grow rapidly. Not having even a single free moment from the beginning, Yang Chen had finally finished the process. Furthermore, under his observation, drops of blood had already begun to seep out of that wound, which clearly implied that Elder Hua's body had already begun to recover the blood-making function. Strictly speaking, Elder Hua had forcefully suppressed her production of blood using her cultivation so that the blood phantom vine could not suck it. Currently, without the restrictions of the blood phantom vine, it had begun to restore immediately. Now that there was no major restriction on Elder Hua's side, after the blood phantom vine had been thrown out, it was the same as getting rid of mortal worry for her. The only thing left now was nursing her back to health. With Elder Hua's cultivation, Yang Chen was certain that, within a few months, her cultivation would be restored and would even be able to increase more. Only then did Yang Chen have the time to look at the Qianqin pouch he had thrown out. Not out of his expectations, even after his repeated warnings, someone had tested his luck in trying to collect the blood phantom vine. The instant the Qianqin pouch was thrown out, an elder reached out her hand to catch it and without hesitation, her spiritual awareness immediately entered the Qianqin pouch. "Don't." Clear Sky Sect Master yelled but was unable to prevent the elder's movement. Bang. Like the blooming of a rose, following the elder's spiritual awareness, more than a dozen blood phantom vines immediately came out of the Qianqin pouch and engulfed the elder who had released the spiritual awareness. Meanwhile, 6 elders, together with the sect master, had already attacked the Qianqin pouch. The 7 Yuaning stage elders' combined strike made the Qianqin pouch directly explode into fragments, turning the blood phantom vine inside into powder. The unfortunate thing was that because of the greediness of that elder, more than 10 vines had escaped. These vines were like living animals and, perceiving people's presence, they began to pounce towards the people in the surroundings. The reason why the blood phantom vine was so terrifying was because within a short time, even if they were separated from the main part, they would not die, and as long as they had access to fresh blood, these vines were capable of coiling around the source and enter the skin. After entering the skin, they would give birth to more roots, forming a brand new vine. Of the people on the scene, everyone had the necessary knowledge about the blood phantom vine. Apart from the knowledge that the blood phantom vine could follow their spiritual awareness, they were clear about other things. Therefore, everyone attacked the small vines left behind. Pang. 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 Several sounds echoed. A few elders, turning pale with fright, had successively attacked several small roots, but 2 or 3 had still escaped their attacks and began to pounce towards other people. Sun Qingshu's cultivation was very low and she was also one of the targets included. But she was not even a little flustered. When Yang Chen had given her the medicine bottles earlier, she knew that Yang Chen would not do anything useless, therefore she was always on alert. When Yang Chen threw away the Qianqin pouch, she had already opened the medicine bottle and had sprinkled the medicinal powder on her body. When that one vine throwing itself towards Sun Qingshu suddenly sensed the medicinal power, it stopped midair and was immediately crushed. The medicinal bottle within Sun Qingshu's hand immediately disappeared and appeared within the sect master's hand. Soon after that, a large portion of medicinal powder was sprayed towards 2 more elders whom the vine was going to attack. The 2 vines immediately fell to the ground and began to twist around. The several elders didn't dare to be careless and immediately attacked the vines which had fallen down just a moment ago, which made them turn into powder. Only then did everyone take a sigh of relief. But the matter was far from over. The blood phantom vines, in addition to coming out, were also extremely toxic. Initially, the restrictions had sealed the toxicity of the blood phantom vine in the courtyard. If, in accordance with Yang Chen's words, they had destroyed the Qianqin pouch, this kind of matter would not have happened, but unfortunately that elder wanted to fulfill his evil schemes. The result of his evil schemes was clear, everyone apart from Sun Qingshu sensed a wave of numbness. Even if they did not breathe, the blood phantom vine's poison was still going to corrode their body. The sect master suddenly sensed something was abnormal and immediately learned from Sun Qingshu and swallowed the powder inside the medicinal bottle before spraying it over her body. Immediately, the sensation of numbness began to fade. After knowing that there was nothing wrong with the medication, the sect master immediately divided it for all other elders on the scene. Nobody dared to be neglectful and hurriedly swallowed it, which brought relief from the numbness, causing everyone to relax. It seemed that everyone had escaped from mortal danger. Everyone's gaze focused on the elder who had been rash just a moment ago. Apart from Sun Qingshu, everyone's gaze was filled with contempt, especially the sect masters, which even had a trace of anger. Even after Yang Chen's repeated warnings that they were not to be careless and try to push their luck, that elder still couldn't accept it. If it were not that Yang Chen had left that medicinal powder with Sun Qingshu, they may have lost 3 or 4 people at this moment. Saving Hua Wanting but losing 3-4 people in the process, if such a thing had really happened, that would certainly have been a disaster for the Clear Sky sect. The mistaken elder also knew her fault and had lowered her head in guilt without saying anything. This time, whatever punishment the sect master gave her, she would abide by it without any resistance. If it were not for her reckless actions, this kind of matter would have not occurred. After giving a fierce glance to the elder, the sect master turned her gaze towards the courtyard again. Yang Chen was still carefully providing medicine to Elder Hua Wanting, seemingly without having looked over there. Rejoicing, the sect master suddenly had a feeling of not being able to confront Yang Chen. This was her first time coming across such a feeling after advancing to the Yuaning stage. Even the sect master did not know why she felt that way towards Yang Chen, whether it was because Yang Chen had saved an elder of their sect or because Yang Chen had left a surplus of medicine powder with Sun Qingshu. In any case, what the sect master wanted to do right now was precisely to wait for Yang Chen to come out and then express her gratitude properly. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 133 Joy from Helping Others. Note. And this marks 10% of Immortal Executioner. Only 1197 chapters to go. Although the outside was a complete mess, inside, Yang Chen was laughing slyly. The majority of the blood phantom vine had already been collected by him into the achievement ring, and moreover, when putting them in the ring, he had already placed them into the medicine garden of the medicine bottle. Although it could not survive in ordinary conditions, the master root was still wrapped within the flesh of Elder Hua Wanting's heart. This was a defying stage expert's flesh and blood, which the blood phantom vine couldn't absorb completely even in 100 years. This was enough to allow the blood phantom vine to survive for a short duration. While everyone was believing that the blood phantom vine had been destroyed with that Qianqin pouch, in reality, the main portion was still with Yang Chen. Naturally, Yang Chen would not tell that to anyone, including Sun Qingshu. What he had to do at that moment was to establish friendly relations. Since the issue of the blood phantom vine had already been resolved, what was left was just to eliminate the toxicity remaining in the courtyard and give some slight assistance to Elder Hua Wanting in recovering. There was no need for Yang Chen to back down from such simple task. It had to be known that, in his previous life, Elder Hua Wanting had killed the blood phantom vine by relying on her formidable cultivation. Soon after that she had slowly refined the blood phantom vine's toxicity and, in the end, was not only able to restore her cultivation, but had furthermore stepped into the defying stage. What Yang Chen actually needed to do was this. Elder Hua Wanting had been able to achieve this in less than 1 year. This was a favor which would cost him nothing, and there were not many opportunities like this, so Yang Chen certainly did not want to miss out on this. Since this was a favor to a person who was about to become a defying stage expert and he was moreover wanting to take Sun Qingshu as a disciple, Yang Chen decided to invest sufficient resources to restore Elder Hua Wanting's injury properly this time. He fished out 1,000-year matured ginseng and placed it into the profound spirit furnace, standing in front of Elder Hua Wanting and rapidly refined the ginseng liquid. Then he directly poured it into Hua Wanting's mouth without using any other herbs. For the past 100 years, Hua Wanting had not received any replenishment and had supported herself completely by relying on the spirit power of her spirit vein and her formidable cultivation. Almost all of her vitality had been drained from her body, and although the spirit power she had access to was extremely pure, it was also extremely scarce. Once the ginseng liquid entered her mouth, she immediately recognized what it was. For her, who was extremely weak, it was well-timed assistance. With her cultivation, it was impossible to overwhelm her with a tonic that was too strong. with the remaining small amount of spirit power, she quickly circulated the ginseng liquid to each and every part of her body. Her flesh, which had almost wilted away after being sucked dry by the blood phantom vine, was as if it had come alive and hungrily absorbed the ginseng liquid. Soon, a tinge of pink appeared on her deathly pale skin, which did not have any color before. Her entire body was exuding an aura of liveliness. The change of skin in Elder Hua Wanting's body was extremely quick and soon the pink color had transformed into the usual bright red. It seemed as if, within this short instant, Elder Hua Wanting's blood had been reborn. Following which, the enormous amount of spirit power within the 1000-year ginseng started to be refined and absorbed by her body. The impurities in the ginseng liquid had already been eliminated and it could thus be absorbed very easily. Soon, the 1000-year ginseng spirit power had completely entered Hua Wanting's body. While Elder Hua Wanting was recovering her spirit power, Yang Chen sprayed a few bottles of medicinal powder around, which made the acute poison of the blood phantom vine which was sealed in the restricted area disappear. After completing all of this, only then did Yang Chen turn towards the sect master and the elders waiting outside of the restriction and hinted that they could enter now. The elders waiting outside the courtyard had started to grow anxious for some time, seeing Yang Chen's gesture, the sect master immediately cut open the restrictions and then the elders almost charged into the courtyard. "You must not move, Elder Hua Wanting." The sect master saw that all of the elders apparently showed an indication of assisting Elder Hua Wanting, so she immediately shouted in a loud voice. The elders also understood the seriousness of the situation and immediately stopped their hand and surrounded Elder Hua Wanting. By this time, they had also stopped paying any attention to Yang Chen and had forced him out of the encirclement. Yang Chen did not mind it and with a smile called out to Sun Qingshu, who was also outside of the encirclement, and hinted to her that she was not to obstruct these Yuning stage elders under any circumstances. Just when everyone had released their spiritual awareness to probe the current situation of Elder Hua Wanting, an extremely pure and enormous spirit power was suddenly released from Elder Hua Wanting. Bang! The formidable spirit power blew apart everything in the surroundings. Nobody among the several elders in the surroundings, including the sect master, was capable of stopping this spirit power and everyone was involuntarily pushed back. Although Yang Chen and Sun Qingshu were standing fairly far away, they were still pushed back by the spirit power. But when Yang Chen was hit by this spirit power, he couldn't help but cry in fear within his heart. This can't be. This kind of situation clearly implied that the time for Hua Wanting's tribulation had come. Although he knew that she had stepped into the defying stage in his previous life, immediately after taking care of the blood phantom vine, he hadn't anticipated that, just after she had resolved the blood phantom, she would also immediately go through her tribulations in this life. It could be assumed that 100 years of tempering herself had made Hua Wanting have a sufficient foundation, and that 1000-year ginseng liquid had allowed Hua Wanting to receive well-timed replenishment, so she may want to enter the defying stage in the spurt of energy. For Yang Chen, this was an extremely beneficial event. Hua Wanting entering the defying stage was a definite fact, but currently she had started to undergo her tribulation under his influence. Regardless of whether she admitted it or not, regardless of whether the Clear Sky sect admitted it or not, in this situation, they were the ones who would owe him. Under the dumbstruck gaze of the elders and the unbelieving gaze of Sun Qingshu and the complacent gaze of Yang Chen for his scheme succeeding, Elder Hua Wanting, who had been sitting upright motionlessly for the past 100 years, was wrapped by a dark red light and began to rise into the sky. At this moment, everyone understood what was happening. Expressions of excitement appeared on everyone's faces. Most of all, the sect master and elders of the Clear Sky sect, they were already Yuning stage experts. To be able to witness a peak Yuning stage expert undergo the yin fire tribulation at this moment, what could be a better opportunity than this? The yin fire could not be seen, so there wasn't anyone who knew what Hua Wanting had been going through, but one thing they could see clearly, and that was that, the longer Hua Wanting's body was burning under the yin fire, the more smooth her skin appeared, and she did not have the previous withered appearance anymore. First, second, third, ninth, when the ninth tribulation of yin fire was over, Elder Hua Wanting had already turned into a 25-year young woman, and her body had once again regained that sparkling and translucent appearance. The only problem was that, under the erosion by the blood phantom vine for 100 years, Elder Hua Wanting's clothing had already been ruined. The only thing left behind was some tattered cloth, which covered a few important parts. Other than those, her bare skin was completely revealed. Boo. The sect master immediately reacted and threw a piece of clothing towards Hua Wanting, who was still in the sky. But in the air, the figure of Elder Hua Wanting flickered once and in the next moment, she had already put on those clothes, the tattered clothes which she had been wearing turned to dust. Soon afterwards her figure flashed again and she appeared in front of Yang Chen. "Many thanks, fellow Taoist, for saving me." Elder Hua Wanting, who had entered the Da Cheng stage just a moment ago, bowed towards Yang Chen after passing through the tribulation of yin fire in front of all elders and the sect master. Junior doesn't dare. Yang Chen hastily bowed even deeper than Hua Wanting to return the politeness. What a joke, she was a Da Cheng stage expert, he was only a foundation stage youngster, how could he accept this gratitude? Yang Chen was not being unreasonable, if both of them were alone, Yang Chen would not have cared much about the greeting, but he was currently in other people's territory. The Clear Sky sect master and the other elders were also standing on the other side, if he acted too arrogantly, wouldn't the good opinion and relation he had established with so much difficulty be in vain? Then Yang Chen would lose a lot just for saving a little. I am indebted to young friend for saving my life, this Hua Wanting does not know how to repay the favor at this time, so I owe young friend a favor, should you ask. Hua Wanting was absolutely straightforward and did not bother getting consent from her sect master about the repayment for Yang Chen. Young friend, in the future, if you have any request for this Hua Wanting will go through water and tread on fire to accomplish it. When the sect master had heard her first words, she was already dissatisfied, but after hearing those final words of Hua Wanting, she couldn't help but start complaining endlessly within her heart. The Clear Sky sect was ecstatic at Hua Wanting reaching the Da Cheng stage, but a great senior of the Da Cheng stage, owing a debt to a foundation stage youngster. Wouldn't it be a great humiliation? But Hua Wanting had already said it, so she could not take back her words. Moreover, after thinking carefully, her words were also logical. If it were not for Yang Chen, who would have dealt with the blood phantom vine? Not to mention entering the Da Cheng stage, even surviving was dubious, so owing him a favor was a must. After thinking along these lines, the sect master also didn't feel so resentful. Little girl, your innate talent is not bad. Without waiting for the elders to come over and exchange the conventional greetings, Hua Wanting's gaze fell on Sun Qingshu, hiding behind Yang Chen's body. When she was tangled within the blood phantom vine, although she couldn't budge, Yang Chen's words echoed clearly within her ears. After personally seeing Sun Qingshu's talent, she immediately verified Yang Chen's words. Slightly moving her spiritual awareness, she clearly realized the situation of mixed spirit power within her body. Which mediocre teacher has decided on your cultivation method? How can there be such a disciple within my Clear Sky sect which hampers their disciples' progress? Hua Wanting was barely able to control her anger. She didn't want to discuss the shady business of the Clear Sky sect in front of an outsider like Yang Chen, so she only gave the evaluation of an incompetent teacher. This kind of beautiful and talented disciple is instructed by a mediocre teacher, what a waste. Hua Wanting, without caring about the opinions of the elders and the sect master, directly asked Sun Qingshu. What is your name, are you willing to accept me as your master? Sun Qingshu could not believe what she was hearing, but Hua Wanting was really standing in front of her. This time, Sun Qingshu's first response was surprisingly not immediately replying to Hua Wanting's question, instead, in her vision, Yang Chen's face appeared, asking her full of confidence if she was ready to change her master. Disciple Sun Qingshu pays her respects to master. After a moment of surprise, Sun Qingshu immediately agreed. Without further objections she directly fell to her knees and kowtowed 3 times in front of Hua Wanting. The Clear Sky sect's master and the elders all knew the problem regarding Sun Qingshu's cultivation, but giving face to Elder Mo Qian, nobody said anything unpleasant. But at this moment, nobody could have anticipated that, as soon as she had survived her tribulation, Hua Wanting would take Sun Qingshu as a disciple. Initially all of them were ashamed in their hearts, but Hua Wanting had been straightforward. But without waiting for anyone to say anything, Sun Qingshu had already kowtowed, taking her as master. Senior apprentice Sister Hua, this. The sect master who was standing on the side had embarrassment across her entire face. In fact Hua Wanting's words just a moment ago also implied that she hadn't properly supervised the Clear Sky sect, but at this moment, Yang Chen was still present on the scene, so she couldn't say much, except one word. What, does sect master think it is not appropriate? Hua Wanting replied only after Sun Qingshu had kowtowed. After entering the Da Cheng stage, her status had taken a huge leap in the Clear Sky sect, even her junior apprentice sister, the sect master, had to talk very formally with her. It's not inappropriate. Who would dare to become hostile with Elder Hua over one disciple? The sect master replied, forcing a smile. It's just that this sudden increase in seniority of Sun Qingshu may not be accepted by the other disciples. Who would not accept this? Tell them to come and find me. Hua Wanting said with a faint smile. I am choosing my disciple, who are they to interfere? After she finished saying this in her domineering manner, she turned to the elders and the sect master and said, bowing her head. For the past 100 years, thanks for the trouble, junior and senior apprentice sisters. Congratulations senior apprentice sister. Congratulations junior apprentice sister. The group of elders all bowed to congratulate her, each and every one smiling from ear to ear. With the increase in the number of defying stage experts, the strength of the Clear Sky sect had increased greatly, so how could they not be happy? After making the salutations, all of the elders began to converse with Elder Hua, wanting regarding what she had felt during those years. It was a joyous and harmonious sight. Yang Chen hinted toward Sun Qingshu. These two people obediently retreated to outside of the confinement. They didn't have the qualifications to speak there, so getting out of their own initiative was best. I haven't lied to you, right? Looking at everyone chatting not too far away, Yang Chen softly asked Sun Qingshu. These words, Yang Chen had once asked her at the execution ground and this time again. And until today, Sun Qingshu couldn't believe everything that had happened. If it were not for Yang Chen asking this, maybe Sun Qingshu would have first pinched herself so as to confirm that she wasn't dreaming. Everything can happen, as long as you are willing. Yang Chen once again said this to Sun Qingshu. This time, Sun Qingshu was no longer skeptical, instead slightly biting her lips, she nodded heavily, revealing a firm look on her face. When she turned to look at Yang Chen saw a light in her eyes which he had not seen before. Similar to Sun Qingshu, Yang Chen currently also had an unreal sensation. The Snow White Fairy of the future had surprisingly established this kind of relation with him, even if they didn't have another encounter, just this was sufficient to fill Yang Chen's bowl. Helping others really is a joyous affair. Not knowing what to say, Yang Chen suddenly thought of this, which involuntarily came out of his mouth. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 134. Even if you speak, we can't believe it. This time, Yang Chen had to invest a fully matured 1,000-year-old ginseng, as well as some other normal herbs. But, in return, he had been able to establish friendly relations with a defying stage expert and had also obtained a favor from her. Other people did not realize this now, but he had also obtained the gratitude of the one who would be known as the Snow White Fairy in the future, and he had still received a blood phantom vine, which had sucked on a defying stage expert's flesh until it was full. It may be true that while wanting passing her tribulation at that time was convenient for the upper echelons of the Clear Sky sect, but Yang Chen also knew that, even if he hadn't used that ginseng, people who could pass their tribulation would pass it regardless, and it would still have been the same for these people, but it would not have been as good as the current situation for him. Investing a little bit to get so much in return. While Wanting had promised Yang Chen a favor immediately after passing the tribulation because she had discovered that Yang Chen had used a 1,000-year ginseng for her. That, for her, who was weak in health, was the most suitable tonic. For this favor, she had to owe him. Very quickly, the sect master of the Clear Sky sect realized that Yang Chen, this outsider, was still on the scene. Stopping her conversation with Hua Wanting, she walked over to Yang Chen and sincerely expressed her thanks. What did the number of defying experts in the sect imply? Everyone clearly knew this. This time Yang Chen had not only resolved the matter regarding the blood phantom vine, but he had also helped in increasing the strength of the Clear Sky sect. In return, Yang Chen had also gained a benefit which could make anyone jealous, the gratitude of a defying stage elder. Even if Elder Wu ascended immediately, Yang Chen would still have the cover of a defying stage expert. Other people still wouldn't dare to touch him. When looking at the general situation, the sect master of the Clear Sky sect had to look at the larger picture when compared to other elders of the Clear Sky sect. Originally, she still had some suspicion towards Yang Chen that he had come here to create trouble, but the instant while Wanting past her tribulation, she realized many things. At least her own thoughts had become much clearer. Within the sect master's eyes, Yang Chen's great fame was by no means a fluke. First was Elder Wu, now Elder Hua Wanting, two defying stage experts had shown such consideration towards Yang Chen. Who would believe this was just a coincidence? Even if it was considered fortuitous, the sect master did not care much, she would not refuse to establish friendly relations with such a fortunate person. Moreover, Yang Chen had come from a sect famous for its righteousness, so he would not create any trouble for the Clear Sky sect. Especially after she had found out that Yang Chen was a third-grade pill concocting master at this age, she would care about other things even less. These are the rewards we had previously agreed upon. The sect master handed Yang Chen a Qianqin pouch. The Qianqin pouch contained 20,000 duplicated jade slips of the scrolls from their library, which had been previously agreed on. Initially they had only agreed to let him browse through them, but now the sect master had directly gifted him duplicated copies. It could be clearly seen from this that the sect master was completely satisfied with Yang Chen this time. Sun Qingshu had also become the disciple of Hua Wanting, so Yang Chen did not need to be anxious that her Zhanxian would be injured when crippling her cultivation or whether her future cultivation would be smooth or not. Since nothing necessary remained and Yang Chen didn't have any intentions of seizing the opportunity to use while wanting to make more connections, he said his goodbyes. Yang Chen taking his leave was also agreeable with everyone. Apart from Sun Qingshu being slightly reluctant on parting with him, the other people were very satisfied towards this youngster who knew when to advance and when to retreat. Nobody had a big urge to keep him. Sun Qingshu volunteered herself to see Yang Chen off to the outside of the Clear Sky sect. "Elder brother, will you still come back to meet me?" Currently, Sun Qingshu adored Yang Chen to an extreme, naturally she hated to part with him. "Certainly." Yang Chen smiled toward Sun Qingshu. "As soon as I have free time, I will come to find you. If you want to meet me, then you can also come to the Puryang Palace to look for me." Under Sun Qingshu's reluctant gaze, Yang Chen finally left the Clear Sky sect and started his journey back home. The outcome this time had already exceeded his expectations, and Yang Chen was eager to return home. After departing from the Clear Sky sect, Yang Chen immediately went to a region devoid of humans and took out his flying shuttle. After that he rapidly began to fly towards a distant location. He hadn't carefully distinguished the direction of the Puryang Palace, instead he was just flew in a random direction. After flying for a long time, Yang Chen stopped at a small valley, which was seemingly concealed. There he looked everywhere to confirm that there wasn't anyone else. Afterwards, he took out the bottle of the medicine garden from the achievement ring and quickly entered the medicine garden. The blood phantom vine had already been moved into the medicine garden but was only stuffed in because he was pressed at that time, so Yang Chen couldn't plant it perfectly. One of the reasons why he had departed too suddenly was because of this. He wanted to properly settle the blood phantom vine before it would deplete Elder Hua Wanting's flesh. The blood phantom vine required very harsh conditions to grow, but fortunately, the medicine garden was capable of imitating such environment. This was because of Yang Chen cultivating both yin and yang of all the 5 attributes, but at the same time it couldn't be done without the formidable spirit power supply of the medicine garden. Naturally, the most crucial point was that, within Yang Chen's memory, there was a method to grow a young blood phantom vine. Time was pressing, the blood phantom vine had already started to wither. Yang Chen hastily transplanted the blood phantom vine to a place which perfectly imitated the harsh surroundings required for its growth, and soon after that he controlled the spirit power of the medicine garden and, in accordance with the method he remembered, began to pour the spirit power in. And nourished the blood phantom vine. Since it couldn't consume blood, the spirit power requirements of the blood phantom vine were double or even triple the normal. But fortunately, during the trip to the ocean, Yang Chen had completely filled the bottle of the medicine bottle to the brim, so there was no worry about spirit power being depleted. Only after spending several hours was Yang Chen able to perfectly plant the blood phantom vine, which had been at its last breath and could assure its survival. Looking at the blood phantom whose vitality had been restored again, Yang Chen finally revealed a slight smile. The crucial first step had been completed and the blood phantom vine had survived. Afterwards, as long as he could subdue and refine it, it would be as good to Yang Chen as getting a helper comparable to Yuning stage experts. What tempted him most was that, after being subdued, the blood phantom vine would even attack people, according to Yang Chen's thoughts, and he also didn't need to worry about it spreading uncontrollably after a fight. But this was still not the complete picture. The blood phantom vine was a divine object of the second wood attribute, so with the support of this fierce blood phantom vine, Yang Chen's second wood attribute spirit power would completely transform. These were all matters for the future. Yang Chen also knew that such good deeds could not be accomplished easily. Looking at the blood phantom vine's restored growth, he was extra relieved and gently retreated from the medicine garden. Just as he was about to return to the original world, Yang Chen discovered something strange. It was as if he had suddenly been bound by a formidable force and he was unable to move even a single step. He also didn't have any opportunity to return to the medicine garden. What made Yang Chen most terrified was that his spiritual awareness had also been completely sealed. Initially Yang Chen intended to use the blood river's killing intent to defend himself, but now he was completely powerless. There was never a moment when Yang Chen had thought that he would be as powerless as this. His spiritual awareness was sealed, his spirit power was sealed, the movement of his body was also sealed, only Yang Chen's senses still remained. He was able to see and hear everything in the surroundings. To discover what was wrong, Yang Chen swept through the surroundings and immediately discovered that he was trapped within a type of sealing spell formation. The most astonishing thing was that this grade of sealing formation required at least a Yuning stage expert to use it fully, so why was a Yuning stage expert dealing with him? Moreover, why would a Yuning stage expert require a sealing formation to deal with a foundation stage youngster like him? But one thing was clear, the enemy did not want to allow him to die, he did not even want to allow him to struggle. Yang Chen immediately concluded this because of his countless years of experience in fleeing and fighting. Since he would not die immediately, Yang Chen felt slightly relieved and his mind also quickly calmed down and began to ponder which person could deal with him like this. Humph, looking for you is really troublesome. A voice suddenly appeared in Yang Chen's ears and soon afterwards the person it belonged to appeared in front of Yang Chen. It was not just one person, but 7 and taking the lead was a familiar woman. You're the elder from the Clear Sky sect. Yang Chen recognized her in a single glance. This was unexpectedly the elder who had haggled with him and in turn had increased the price at the Clear Sky sect. You recognize me? Unfortunately it is of no use. The woman sneered. I know that you are Pure Yang Palace's Yang Chen, but surely you do not know my name. I am known as Mo Qian and am an elder of the Clear Sky sect. The cultivation method of Little Shu which you have discovered was also my doing. Because she was hindering your grand disciple's road. Although he couldn't move his body, Yang Chen was still able to utter a response. Hearing Mo Qian's words, Yang Chen immediately replied to her. That's right. Mo Qian did not have an ounce of fear when confessing all of this to Yang Chen. What, you wanted to get my confession? You think I will allow you to leave alive? I just wanted to know some things before you die. So if you have anything to ask, ask away, I will tell you everything I know. How did you find me? Yang Chen's formidable mental state basically allowed him to read between Mo Qian's words without being worried about his life and death. Since the other party had sealed him like this, they must have some plan, and once he knew their plan, he could concentrate on saving himself. But then again, first he had to unravel some mysteries. Speaking of which, youngster, you travel very quickly. In such a short time you have already traveled such a long distance, which grade of flying sword do you have? Ah well, after you die, it will also belong to me. Mo Qian didn't answer directly. Just to let you know, the jade slips which you received from the sect master, among them, at least half have been tempered with, so wherever you go, you cannot escape my trailing ability. Hearing Mo Qian's words, Yang Chen immediately had an urge to slap himself. He had faced this kind of circumstances many times, so how could he forget this lesson? Regarding this, Yang Chen hadn't been cautious enough. At that time after taking those jade slips filled bag from sect master's hand, he had put them directly into the Qiankan pouch which he had gotten from his great master, Wang Yong, so that the various elders would not find out about his achievement ring. But he had forgot to put them into the achievement ring even after coming out and had thus provided Mo Qian the loophole to make use of. Their presence disappeared somewhere around here, so surely you also have an immortal cave which you can carry around or a magical tool, like a medicine garden. It seems my luck is not bad. Mo Qian said, feeling proud of herself. The female disciples behind her also didn't have any favorable feeling towards Yang Chen and were only calmly looking at the exchange between Yang Chen and Mo Qian. The Clear Sky sectos have some good methods. Yang Chen again sneered. Secretly killing the sect's benefactor so that in the future I cannot use this favor. Just accept your death. Mo Qian was not at all enraged hearing Yang Chen sneering. In fact, this matter has no relation to my Clear Sky sect, I just want you to die. So it was not Clear Sky sect's conspiracy and instead Mo Qian's conduct. Yang Chen was quickly trying to think of an idea, incessantly trying to rouse his spiritual awareness or rouse his spirit power, but no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to break away from the current circumstances. You are a foundation stage youngster, and first you helped Elder Wu refine the heaven-seizing pill, soon afterwards you dealt with the blood phantom vine, and you moreover also refined third-grade foundation stage pills. Mo Qian slowly walked towards Yang Chen while she continued to speak. The Pure Yang Palace is not a sect focused on pill concocting, yet you have created so many wonders in pill concocting, explain, how did you do that? As you have realized, I have an amazing item related to pill concocting. Yang Chen said as if he had slipped, but he wasn't flustered or frightened because of being sealed. However, do you think I would keep that with me at all times? Then we will all go together to find it. Mo Qian slightly raised her corner of mouth. You are not an idiot, why would you carry such a precious object with yourself? Moreover, I still think you won't easily tell where it is concealed, isn't that right? Naturally, you will not let me go, informing you means death for me, not informing you is also means death for me, then why should I fulfill your desires? Yang Chen calmly said this while facing Mo Qian, who was standing in front of him. Frankly speaking, you are the first person I have seen who has shown such boldness in such a situation. A trace of admiration flashed in Mo Qian's gaze before disappearing. What a pity. I also understand the fact that, before you get hold of it, I am still safe for the time being. Yang Chen did not loosen his guard because of Mo Qian showing admiration for him. He replied, coldly staring at Mo Qian and the people she had brought together. I think I must introduce you. Mo Qian suddenly stepped aside revealing the 6 women she had brought together. They all are my disciples. You must be curious regarding why I have introduced them. After Mo Qian had introduced her disciples, she confronted Yang Chen again. They are all Zhanxian stage experts, and the most important thing is that their spiritual awarenesses are in complete harmony. If mine was also added with them, we barely have the qualifications to cultivate an extremely strange cultivation method together. You and I both are cultivators, so naturally you also know that knowing the things in other people's minds is an impossible matter. Mo Qian revealed a complacent smile. But fortunately, this cultivation method which we can cultivate together can directly invade your spirit sea and fish out all of your memories, one by one. In other words, whether you speak or not, it basically makes no difference to us. Mo Qian arrogantly declared her own victory. Even if you tell us, we still can't believe you, we will only be convinced by what we find. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 135 To Kill or to Refine. Yang Chen was stunned by Mo Qian's words. Just as Mo Qian had said, wanting to know what the other person was thinking was simply impossible. The most unpredictable thing in this world was a person's mind, even for immortals it was an impossible thing to accomplish. But memory was different. If someone released their spiritual awareness, allowed another person to probe it, and the other person had by luck grasped some unique spiritual awareness cultivation method, then it was very possible to examine someone's memories. The trump card within Mo Qian's hand was precisely such a cultivation method, but it required the cooperation of her and her 6 disciples to accomplish it. It could be assumed that in such a huge fight, at least half of the resources would be used to suppress the spiritual awareness of the person the spell was targeted at. What stunned Yang Chen was that Mo Qian surprisingly had the intention of attacking his spirit sea, wishing to invade his spirit sea with the aim of obtaining his memories. She could choose many bad options, but she actually had to select his spirit sea. Initially, Yang Chen had believed that he would not have to face trouble this time, but his own carelessness had allowed Mo Qian to find his trace, and while he was busy with nursing the blood phantom vine, they had arranged the sealing spell formation to trap Yang Chen. But surprisingly, at such a critical time when he was standing at death's door, there had been such a favorable development. Mo Qian was not someone who wanted to talk with Yang Chen. After informing him of the entire situation, she followed through with her words to make Yang Chen realize that nothing could save him. The master and disciples did not talk anymore, and under Mo Qian's command, they quickly sat around Yang Chen, forming a circle. Bang. With Mo Qian controlling the spell formation, Yang Chen's body started shaking as if his mind was being struck again and again. Darkness quickly spread in front of his eyes, and he immediately lost consciousness. Master, I will now remove the restrictions, immediately suppress his spiritual awareness, and afterwards invade his spirit sea at once. Apparently they had done this many times, so Mo Qian and her disciples were quite familiar with it. With Mo Qian's command, the disciples immediately dispersed and took their seats in the pre-arranged seats, forming the shape of the Ursa Major constellation. Yang Chen was right at the position of the North Star, and Mo Qian was the person closest to him. The 6 disciples had each extended their hands, one placed at the other's shoulder, and the final disciple's arm was placed on Mo Qian's shoulder. Mo Qian was sitting in front of everyone, moving her hands to strike both formation secrets, which immediately eliminated the sealing spell formation, acting on Yang Chen, and he immediately fell to the ground. Mo Qian sneered and pointed her finger towards Yang Chen's Yintang acupoint. The reason why they had talked with Yang Chen and not directly started their task was because of the spell formation's limit. That it could only be maintained for a few hours. If they had started directly, finding the correct portion of memories from Yang Chen's birth until now would be just like finding a needle in a haystack. As for why the previous conversation was necessary, it was so that Yang Chen's attention would be concentrated on that matter, which was the same as Yang Chen, already keeping the answer ready before they even started, ready for Mo Qian to come and fetch it. Mo Qian and her Zhanxian stage disciples had already done this kind of thing countless times and were completely compatible with each other. When Mo Qian's finger pointed towards Yang Chen's Yintang acupoint, the spiritual awareness of the last disciple directly rushed towards the disciple sitting in the front. After the spiritual awareness of these 2 people combined, it then rushed towards the 3rd disciple sitting in front of her, and soon afterwards towards the 4th disciple, then towards the 5th, the 6th, finally it rushed into Mo Qian's body. Mo Qian's cultivation was the highest, and she was also the backbone of the whole spell formation. After proficiently combining the spiritual awareness of the 6 disciples behind her, she forwarded it to her finger pointing at Yang Chen's Yintang acupoint, and from where it directly rushed into Yang Chen's spirit sea. Bang. After the wave of familiar blackness had passed, the spiritual awareness of the 7 people reached an unfamiliar location. This was completely different from the vast expanses of whiteness they had seen in other people's spirit sea. Actually there was only a thick fog of blood and nothing else. Every person's spirit sea was different, the 7 people knew this fact. With Mo Qian's spiritual awareness leading them, the 7 spiritual awarenesses gathered and rushed into that fog of blood together. Suddenly, with Mo Qian in the lead of these 7 people, it was as if they had seen the most frightening thing in their life. Every person's face revealed an expression as if their soul had flown away and scattered. Soon afterwards, without saying any words, they directly lost their consciousness. Including Yang Chen, all 8 people lightly fell to the ground, losing their awareness. After a long time, Yang Chen was the first one to wake up. He had only lost consciousness because of the attack of the spell formation. He hadn't received any substantial harm. Since he was no longer controlled by Mo Qian and her disciples, he automatically woke up. After waking up, Yang Chen discovered the other people who had fainted, lying on the ground. With a sneer, he first inspected his body's condition, regardless of whether Mo Qian and others were living or not. His biggest concern was still that sealing formation. It was really troublesome, they had surprisingly sealed both his spirit power and spiritual awareness. Fortunately, before extracting his memories, they had to make Yang Chen release his spiritual awareness, therefore they had removed the spell formation, otherwise Yang Chen would have been in great trouble. Heaven had a road, but you chose not walk it, while hell didn't have any gate, yet you still chose to burst in. Looking at the elder Mo Qian and the 6 other disciples lying on the ground, Yang Chen got up and began to bind them, one by one. Yang Chen was very surprised that Mo Qian was just unconscious, but the first disciple behind her had died in fear. The 5 disciples behind her had also sustained severe injuries of different degrees, based on their proximity to Yang Chen. Mo Qian had also survived because of her cultivation being higher, and although she hadn't lost her life at that moment, her spiritual awareness had also sustained injuries. If nobody helped her for some more time, she would certainly die on the spot. What a stupid attack, absolutely insisting on invading my spiritual awareness. Yang Chen said, muttering to himself. This was already the 2nd time within half a year that someone's spiritual awareness had rushed into his spirit sea. The first time was Immortal Island's Guan Yuing. She had been dragged into the river of blood through the spiritual awareness imprint and had been so scared that she immediately lost consciousness. The second time was this, the only difference with Guan Yuing was that, at this time Mo Qian had seized the initiative and had led the combined spiritual awareness of her and her 6 disciples directly into the river of blood. If just a trace of blood river could make Guan Yuing unconscious, then what would happen if the entire spiritual awareness entered the blood river? The consequences of that could be clearly seen from the state of the disciples lying behind Mo Qian. While they were still unconscious, Yang Chen used his soul-stunning technique on Mo Qian and the 5 disciples who were alive, making them completely dormant. Other than Yang Chen waking them by his own accord, they could only be saved by someone at the level of Elder Hua Wanting, the Da Cheng stage expert, otherwise they would certainly never wake up. There was no other option. The enemy was a Yuning stage expert, and even the worst among her disciples was at the Jidan stage. Yang Chen's cultivation base was quite low compared to them, so he could only restrict them. For additional control, after using his soul-stunning technique, they were thrown into the medicine garden. His topmost priority was to immediately deal with those troublesome jade slips. These jade slips had been tampered with by Mo Qian and had given away his position, so he had to immediately take care of these hidden dangers. From their previous words, as long as he entered the medicine garden, they would be unable of tracking Yang Chen. Mo Qian knew that Yang Chen had the space of a medicine garden, so they could only lie in wait, deploying the spell formation at the original place. Yang Chen would not repeat that disastrous policy again. Even if he put these jade slips into the achievements ring, Yang Chen could not feel sure, so dealing with them immediately was comparatively better. Urging on his flying shuttle again, he rushed to another region. After deploying a few spell formations to warn him, he immediately released the sword spell guarding the medicine garden. Only after dwelling in the main hall of the palace in the medicine garden did he feel safe again and began to carefully inspect those jade slips. Yang Chen attentively searched each and every jade slip using his spiritual awareness, and only after confirming that there were no problems with a jade slip did he put them into the achievements ring. Since Yang Chen cultivated the 3 purity secrets, his spiritual awareness was very sensitive. Very quickly he found some jade slips with a hidden mark on them. Fortunately these marks were not imprinted very strongly. As long as Yang Chen carefully applied a bit of force, they could be erased easily. Even if it was not very difficult, Yang Chen still had to spend one entire day on this matter. Only after he had inspected all 20,000 jade slips did he feel relieved. This situation was a lesson for Yang Chen. In the future, if he received anything from other people, as long as he could, he first had to inspect those for any such marks which could be used to trace him, otherwise even he himself wouldn't know how he died. Finally, after everything was done, Yang Chen felt relieved. He wanted to kill Mo Qian immediately, and after thinking about it, he urged his flying shuttle to another region and then carried Mo Qian alone into the dome of the medicine garden. Since all of the controls were in Yang Chen's hand, Yang Chen quickly removed the effects of his soul-stunning technique, but he didn't release her completely, he still wanted to interrogate her properly. Strange. Even after removing the effects of the soul-stunning technique, Mo Qian still didn't wake up, so he had no choice but to use another technique in the same category as the soul-stunning techniques and gave a few jolts to her spiritual awareness. Only then did Mo Qian, who had been deeply unconscious, start to wake up. Once Mo Qian opened her eyes, Yang Chen immediately discovered something wrong. Her listless eyes were not that of a wielding stage expert in any way, they were just like a person who had lost her soul. No way. Although Yang Chen knew that the blood river within his spirit sea was quite a calamity, he hadn't anticipated that it would be so formidable to make a wielding stage expert lose her mind. "Who are you?" Yang Chen asked Mo Qian, who had a lifeless look within her eyes. "I am who?" Replying to Yang Chen's question, Mo Qian, whose eyes were still without any expression, spoke as if she had become demented. He extended his hand and waved it in front of her eyes, but Mo Qian's gaze didn't focus on him and completely ignored his actions. When he used his spiritual awareness to probe her body, it entered her body without any hindrances, as if she had set up no defenses against Yang Chen. Had she really become a vegetable? Yang Chen clenched his teeth and suddenly tore a big hole in her clothes, exposing her smooth skin, but even after this, Mo Qian didn't even bat an eyelid. In great surprise, Yang Chen carefully sealed Mo Qian again and afterwards grabbed one of her female disciples. After eliminating the soul-stunning technique and giving shocks to her spiritual awareness, he forcefully woke her, only to find out that she had also become a vegetable. The other 4 disciples were also forcefully woken up, but Yang Chen was very disappointed that none among these female disciples still retained their minds. Surprisingly, all had turned into vegetables who had no capacity to think. It seemed that, after they had entered Yang Chen's spirit sea forcefully, they had all lost their souls. This was somewhat uncomfortable for Yang Chen. Originally, Mo Qian had led these people to kill him and steal his treasures, so they were simply enemies. Even if he killed them, Yang Chen would not feel any mental burden. But currently, one had been scared to death, while the remaining 6 had turned into vegetables. What to do? The first idea within Yang Chen's mind was to kill all of them and remove their traces. This was the most straightforward and easiest method, and there would also be no problems for him in future. In all likelihood, Mo Qian and them would not have informed anyone that they were going to kill Yang Chen, so even if they went missing, there would be no traces leading to him. But as soon as this thought came, another thought followed. It had to be known that Mo Qian was a middle wielding stage expert, since she had already become a vegetable, killing her would be a great loss. Yang Chen knew at least 3 methods by which he could refine Mo Qian into his puppet without harming Mo Qian's cultivation base. His success would mean that he had a middle wielding stage puppet as his secret weapon. For current Yang Chen, this was extremely attractive. Similarly, the rest of the 5 disciples could also be refined into puppets, so that when the time came, the 6 puppets could form an offensive spell formation, with Mo Qian as the core for the spell, with the 5 Jidan stage disciples operating the spell. This would certainly be enough to deal with experts at Mo Qian's realm. But this method of refining living people into puppets was certainly a technique of the devil path. If someone found out, Yang Chen would definitely be labeled as a devil cultivator. The greatest danger was the Clear Sky sect. If the Clear Sky sect knew that an elder and Jidan disciples of their sect had been refined into puppets, it would certainly enrage the sect, which was counted among of the top 5 sects, and they would certainly eliminate Yang Chen. Even the friendship he had developed after healing Hua Wanting would be of no use. Pillar refine into puppets, these 2 thoughts were coming and going within Yang Chen's mind. One moment he would be partial towards one side, other moment he would be partial towards the other. It was really very hard for him to make a decision. Ultimately, the scene of Mo Qian trapping him in the ceiling formation, where even his death was not in his hands, appeared in his mind. That kind of helpless was certainly not very pleasant. Since Mo Qian was so fond of controlling people and reading their memories, then she also had to be ready to pay the price, so death was really quite fitting for her. Those 5 disciples were also not any better. Looking at their proficiency in the technique, this was certainly not the first or the second time. Thinking about this, Yang Chen was no longer indecisive. Mo Qian, since you wanted to kill me, then be ready to be killed in turn, if you can't. Since you wanted to read my memories, I will turn you into my puppets. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 136. In books there are houses made of gold. Yang Chen had finally decided to turn Mo Qian and her disciples into his puppets, which certainly was not something he could achieve overnight, so taking them with him was better. This time, after warning Sun Qingshu, Yang Chen had intended to return home. From the time Yang Chen had departed, 15 whole years had already passed since he had last seen his home. Yang Chen wanted to spend half a year at his home so that he could get enough time to spend time with his family and also tighten their villa's defenses. After finding the right direction, Yang Chen steered his flying shuttle and started flying towards the direction of the villa where his mother and father were settled. Leading a life while concentrating on cultivating was not bad, but once he thought of going home, Yang Chen suddenly had grown a little impatient. That villa had been arranged in a place where people usually didn't come, so generally speaking, in case of a war, the chaos would not involve that region. In addition to purchasing a large quantity of servants, he had also left behind a sufficient number of talismans for their defense, so there should not be any great problems. The whole journey could be said to have been as fast as lightning. After spending just a few days, Yang Chen had already reached to the mountain where his mother and father had been settled. From a distance, Yang Chen had immediately discovered that there had not been much change in the illusion spell and the others which he had set up at that time. While flying on the entire journey, he had not discovered any problems. When he reached the mountain, Yang Chen stopped his flying shuttle and began to walk on the road just outside of the mountain. The villa had a mountain on one side and a river on the other. In those days Yang Chen had recruited a group of servants which had people specialized in all respects and whose numbers counted in the hundreds. The entire villa was self-sufficient in terms of fulfilling basic needs, without any need to rely on the outside too much. As for some necessary things, he had recruited people specialized in transportation and purchasing, so it was very safe. Compared to the days when Yang Chen had left, the villa seemed even livelier, and many small courtyards had also sprung up. 15 years of time was already enough for one generation of people to grow up and settle down, which was the reason why so many houses had been built. The life within the mountains was away from the chaos outside and was thus carefree, and the people he had found at that time were also very honest. Even until now, everyone talked about Lord Yang and Madame Yang's son with great respect. If it were not for Lord Yang, they would have been drawn in by the flames of war a long time ago, then where could they have enjoyed such a carefree life like the last 10 years? In the eyes of the people in the villa, Yang Chen was just a stranger. Apart from some old servants recognizing him, none of the youngsters was familiar with Yang Chen and were thus on guard against him. But after Yang Chen proclaimed his identity, he immediately received a very enthusiastic welcome. When Yang Chen's mother and father heard that Yang Chen had returned, they were so excited that they were unable to stop themselves from coming out. Seeing that their son still had the appearance like when he left the house, these two people surrounded him and in their surprise questioned him while sizing him up. Only after talking for most of the day did they remember to take him inside. His father and mother were healthy, which made Yang Chen very happy. Not only that, in these 15 years, his father and mother had once again given birth to 2 sons and 1 daughter, which indeed exceeded the necessary quota for fulfilling the mission of carrying on the Yang family line. Because of his cultivation, Yang Chen had clearly stated that he would not produce any offspring for the time being. So with his 2 little brothers and 1 little sister, the Yang family could continue to remain in the following years. When Yang Chen returned, his little brothers and sister looked at him very strangely, but still they greeted their elder brother with excessive courtesy. The villa had not only craftsmen, but also many scholars. All of the children in the villa had learned to read and had been receiving education from the start. This had made Lord Yang extremely satisfied. Initially he was only a peasant, but now their family had developed greatly in the field of education. Towards the education of his sons and daughter, he spared no pains. In the entire world there were no unfilial immortals, even if Yang Chen was a cultivator, he still didn't forget this point. Unfortunately, his father and mother didn't have any aptitude for cultivation, and after Yang Chen's inspection, he found that his younger brothers and sisters' spirit root were also very ordinary, but this was also good. They would be able to enjoy their life, carefree. Without any worries or illness. This kind of life was far better than that of a majority of cultivators and ordinary people. Resting in his villa with his parents and other relatives, Yang Chen felt the familial warmth which he hadn't felt for a long time. This feeling was very comfortable and his heart was completely calm. Even within his sect, he did not have this kind of pure happiness without any pressure. In those days, when he had given his mother and father the body refining pill and had left, his cultivation was very shallow. Only at the first Kai layer. Those illusionary spells which he had deployed outside of the mountain were also quite limited and only had the purpose of defense in the most dire of times. But now Yang Chen was already at the foundation stage, naturally he had to lay new formations. Since he now had 2 younger brothers and 1 younger sister, Yang Chen decided to increase the extent of the villa. To leave sufficient space for their growth, he expanded the extent of the villa by 10 folds. On the surrounding mountain tops Yang Chen arranged even more large-scale illusion spells, and within the main hall of the Yang family's villa, he had arranged a new spirit gathering spell and a defensive spell formation. The spirit gathering spell would assemble the spiritual influence of the surrounding 100 miles slowly at all times. As long as anyone lived inside of the villa, the spell would continuously improve their physique, keeping all illnesses away from them. As for the defensive spell, Yang Chen had given 2 tiles to his mother and father. As long as someone from the Yang family dripped their blood on them, they would immediately be recognized as the master and could control the spell formation. Within the surrounding farmlands, Yang Chen had sprinkled enough soil from the medicine garden that this soil, which had been nourished by spirit power over all those years, had transformed these farmlands into the best agricultural lands of the mortal world. He also revealed his flying ability to his parents and his siblings once to convince them that he was not an ordinary mortal anymore and was already walking on the path to become an immortal, which became the source for extreme astonishment to his relatives. Yang Chen left many such things for them, such as the elixir from refining thousand-year ginsengs, which could be used at a crucial moment to save someone's life, or the body pills which were to be used for the improvement of the physique of later generations of the Yang family. At the same time, he also gave all of them 5 colors of spirit stones, which could be used to test whether the later generations had a cultivation spirit root or not. In case any of the later generations could cultivate, they should break a jade slip to notify Yang Chen, and Yang Chen would personally come to take them to an immortal sect. With these arrangements, the Yang family villa would certainly prosper more and more, with the abundant harvest of all kind of crops, for at least the next 100 years. After he finished making all such arrangements, Yang Chen began to integrate into this kind of calm livelihood of an ordinary person. On one side he was enjoying the family affection with which he did not come in contact often, while on the other side, he was reading those 20,000 jade slips he had gotten from the Clear Sky sect. Last time Yang Chen had only removed the hidden marks from them, but now he was reading all of them in detail. From the beginning, he had the absolutely clear goal of requesting these jade slips with miscellaneous information, and the reason why he had spread a reputation of himself as a great bookworm at the Pure Yang Palace was also with the purpose that he could request other sects for such jade slips. The previous generations had recorded many secrets, and all of them were recorded within such books. It was not that Yang Chen was not emphasizing on his cultivation, but cultivation was actually not just a simple matter of training and increasing spirit power. If it had been such a simple matter, then wouldn't anyone who had spirit root simply skyrocket? In reality, those who were capable of becoming Zhanxian stage experts were like phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. Everyone who had just advanced had to consolidate their current realms. This process of consolidation could last from 3 to 5 in the least, to 8 to 10 years at the most. The more firmly the realm was consolidated, the easier the breakthroughs would be. As for those people who intend to break through a few layers in short time, the quicker their cultivation was, the more troublesome it would be in the future. Yang Chen, who had gone through rebirth, was even more clear about this process. Other people who had built their foundation in only one type of spirit power did not have to be so cautious, but currently he had reached the foundation stage in all 10 types of the 5 phases of yin and yang, so he was extremely cautious and didn't dare to advance prematurely. While enjoying the peaceful life at his home and reading these books, Yang Chen simply indulged in pleasure and had given up his duties. The reason why these were all miscellaneous books was because the things written in them were not very significant and had no relation to cultivation, but with regards to expanding one's horizon, they were invaluable. With 1 cup of tea with a hint of thousand-year ginseng on the side on a table, Yang Chen was reading one of the jade slips with his spiritual awareness while lying on his couch with his eyes closed. Yang Chen clearly knew that even immortals could not have such a lifestyle frequently. He was reading each one of them, one after another. If something was useful, Yang Chen immediately remembered it and noted it down. If it was not useful, Yang Chen still read it to pass the time and then forgot about it. After he had cultivated to the 3rd layer of the 3 purity secrets, his memorizing ability had already reached an astonishing level. Most of these jade slips were a waste because of Mo Qian's interference. What Yang Chen wanted was some travel records and things like that to increase his knowledge. How could Mo Qian allow Yang Chen, the person who had uncovered her conspiracy, to have his wishes fulfilled? Even if he wanted to increase his knowledge, these were just not suitable. The majority of such folk stories were just ridiculous fantasies of some people for the entertainment of others and didn't have any connection with cultivation in any sense. Mo Qian never had any good intentions in her heart, but she had not expected that Yang Chen would look at these with keen interest. In Yang Chen's eyes, most of the things for cultivation, especially in the field of pill concocting, tool refining or spell formations, could mostly be described as products of creative imagination. One could only achieve something if one thought of it. If one didn't even dare to think about it, then there wouldn't be even a small desire for it. These things were just what Yang Chen had wished for, so he was looking at every slip very carefully. Apart from this, there was still one more important reason. Currently Yang Qi was lacking 8th metal true secrets among his great yin and yang secrets, the information of which was reportedly written in the folklore of the Clear Sky sect. This was a memory from his previous life. Yang Chen did not specifically remember which folklore it was, but he definitely remembered that it was some disciple of the Clear Sky sect with some free time, who had been reading the vernacular folk stories and had discovered this from therein. These vernacular folk stories were similar to fiction. Most of them were about cultivators, some were about some Kai-layer cultivator whose cultivation had increased very quickly, some were about the experiences of experts who had gone to temper their disposition and cultivate their mental level. All of them had one common principle, which was that they were based on real events as much as possible, but never involved the real cultivation method of the cultivator or things like that. But there was one exception, and that was a folklore which the Clear Sky sect had obtained from somewhere else. As it happened among the tales of fantasies, a small folklore containing an expert's cultivation method was mixed in. This portion containing the cultivation method was at the end, and the length of the folklore was long, containing at least several millions of character. Those ridiculous plots ahead of it made many cultivators discard it before reaching the end. Those who were capable of persevering to the end were truly very few. By some lucky coincidence, a Kai-layer outer disciple who was hopeless about reaching the foundation stage had discovered a mysterious cultivation method at the back of the folklore. After asking for guidance from his merit-transferring disciple, it caught the attention of an elder. Only then was it discovered that this was a copy of the 8 Metal True Secrets. From the beginning, Yang Chen had inspected these slips to the greatest extent possible in anticipation of that day. Apart from indulging in the fantasies of people increasing their cultivation realm, he was looking for precisely that piece of folklore. 20,000 jade slips, hundreds of millions of characters. Yang Chen did not even know if the one he had been looking for was in this collection or not, he also didn't remember its name, thus he could read every single one of them. Yang Chen knew that cultivation stressed on karma, therefore it could not be forced, so he would have to work hard to find the one. Even after a few months had passed and he had read over 10,000 jade slips, he still couldn't discover the one which he had been looking for. Distant from worldly matters, the days of life were calm and free of worry. Yang Chen didn't have any extravagant hope that he would be able to take the 8 Metal True Secrets from the Clear Sky sect at the first try. If bad came to worse, he could just go again and find an excuse to obtain some more books of the Clear Sky sect. As long as he could get a large number of books, he would surely be able to find it. As for the case that it was first discovered by the people of the Clear Sky sect, according to his memory, that was a matter which would only happen 100 years in the future. These 100 years were sufficient for Yang Chen to obtain all of the books which were not related to cultivation from the Clear Sky sect. With this attitude, Yang Chen was calmly reading the books which he had, while recording all things which were useful or which he believed would come to use in future. After he had gone through first 18,000 jade slips, he suddenly came across one which was very long and contained several millions of characters. He discovered this after he swept it once with his spiritual awareness. Immersing his mind, he had only read the beginning, but he could not help shaking his head again and again. How could someone write such a ridiculous tale and then at that length? Suddenly he remembered something which made him excited. Weren't the 8 Metal True Secrets also inscribed in such a ridiculous and long tale? Thinking about this, Yang Chen accelerated the speed of reading and very quickly reached the last portion. Actually, he had entirely skipped the plot of the tale and only looked at the portions which contained the cultivation method. Trying to find the script overflowing with an ancient intention was very easy. Within half a day, Yang Chen had found what he was looking for. After carefully comprehending it a few times, he finally confirmed that this was the 8 Metal True Secrets which he had yearned for all the time. To travel far and wide only to find something easily, Yang Chen suddenly remembered the sentence. Feeling happy, he burst out in happy laughter, but then another thought flashed through his mind. In books there are sumptuous houses and graceful ladies, in books there are 1,000 bushels of millets, in books there are regiments of war chariots. Notes. The last sentence is a Chinese idiom, basically meaning that in books everything is possible. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 137. The challenge must be a life and death duel. Obtaining the 8 Metal True Secrets was like a great burden being removed from Yang Chen's heart. His entire body was relaxed and happy. Initially he had thought that he would not be able to obtain the 8 Metal True Secrets from the Clear Sky sect the first time. It should be known that the libraries of the Clear Sky sect contained information accumulated over countless years, something which a small sect absolutely could not compare to. Even the hidden pavilion in the Puryang Palace had a few million jade slips, then how many would the Clear Sky sect have? Who would have thought that, because of Mo Qian's dirty tricks, he would be able to obtain these most unreasonable kinds of books, which would allow him to obtain the 8 Metal True Secrets the first time. Thinking about this made Yang Chen very happy. Cultivators attached great importance to karma. Apparently, these 8 Metal True Secrets were destined for Yang Chen somehow, otherwise he would not have obtained them on the first time. But Yang Chen did not begin cultivation immediately after obtaining them. Since he didn't have the origin spirit power, the 8th metal true Kai, he would not be able to cultivate it successfully. Not too long ago, Yang Chen had collected 5th Earth True Kai, but before he could understand it thoroughly, Yang Chen did not intend to go and look for other True Kai. He had already read 18,000 jade slips and had still 2,000 left. After Yang Chen had finished them at a moderate pace, he tidied up everything and bid farewell to his mother and father. Despite being greatly unwilling to let him go, they did not say much other than reminding him repeatedly to come back from time to time. They already understood clearly that Yang Chen was in a different world from them. While Yang Chen was enjoying his peaceful days with his family, a lot of sensational matters had happened in the cultivation world. Strictly speaking, they all had something to do with Yang Chen. First was the Pure Yang Palace, which had grandly established its Hall of Eccentrics. Although a second-rate sect establishing a hall for their subordinates was not something to make a fuss about, as it happened this Hall of Eccentrics had 2 Wielding stage experts. Actually just 2 Wielding stage expert was not something which could astonish people, but these 2 Wielding stage experts were demon beasts. This fact was sufficient to gain the attention of other big sects. Demon beasts entering the sect, how was this possible? People are people, demons are demons. When running into a demon, not killing it was already an immense favor, so how could they tolerate them entering their sect? But the explanation given by the Pure Yang Palace removed all their problems. They had guarded the sect painstakingly for thousands of years, so what else should they be rewarded with? Thinking that the Pure Yang Palace had already presented the 2 demon beasts with a 5th Earth True Kai which Elder Wu had given as a present for Yang Chen, had that helped them reach the Wielding stage? Even the 5 Phases sect had 5th Earth True Kai, but it could not compare to the Pure Yang Palace's style. Everyone knew that the Pure Yang Palace did not have a cultivation method to refine 5th Earth True Kai, so even if they kept it, it would still be of no use. But they had given them as a present to the 2 Earth-attributed demon beasts. Other sects had never used such a method. Once the Hall of Eccentrics was established, it gave rise to the attention of many sects and at the same time, many guardian spirit beasts which had been subdued by other sects also expressed their expectations for the Hall of Eccentrics. This caught all of the big sects unprepared. If they did not give them benefits, maybe the guardian spirit beasts would escape, but it would still pain them to give the guardian spirit beasts some rewards. Moreover, those guardian spirit beasts who had restrictions put on them also began to show the will to rebel, which gave headaches to the sect leaders of all big sects. And this matter was supported by Elder Wu, so others could not oppose it. Regardless of what is said, the Pure Yang Palace had not only left a good mark of their name in the realm of demon beasts, they had also raised 2 Wielding stage experts within the sect, and this was an undeniable fact. The Pure Yang Palace's reputation spread far and wide, some things were good, some were bad. Some people who couldn't accept that demon beasts were shown such consideration felt very repulsed. Many loose cultivators thought that, since they could ensure the safety of demon beasts, surely they would try to defend their disciples to the greatest extent and started coming in large numbers, which made the Foreign Affair Hall's master, Zhanxian, quite delighted. Another sect which was the center of an important event, similar to the Pure Yang Palace, was the Clear Sky sect. The Clear Sky sect's Hua Wanting had finally thrown off the Blood Phantom Vine after 100 years of struggle and had successfully passed the Yin Fire Tribulation. The Clear Sky sect publicized this news with great fanfare, and every sect sent their representatives to congratulate them. Yang Chen's contribution was mostly concealed by the Clear Sky sect. They had only said that, just after Elder Hua had broken away from the Blood Phantom Vine, she was very weak and Yang Chen had provided her timely support by giving her 1,000-year ginseng, so she could pass the tribulation in one stroke. But this relationship, Elder Hua had specially reminded the Clear Sky sect to maintain a courteous relationship with Yang Chen and the Pure Yang Palace. Although Elder Hua reaching the Dacheng stage was a delightful occasion, even more people were envious of Yang Chen's good fortune. First was Elder Wu and now Elder Hua. Why was he able to gain favors from all those Dacheng stage experts? Why couldn't other people encounter this kind of good fortune? As for the disappearance of Mo Qian and her few disciples, nobody had raised this topic, as if the Clear Sky sect itself wasn't aware of it. Mo Qian and her 6 Jidant stage disciples had gone out together to pick some herbs, so other people hadn't seen their presence. But this kind of matter was very common, and Yang Chen himself wouldn't return to the sect for many months or years, so nobody found it strange and went to look for the whereabouts of Mo Qian and her disciples. Perhaps after a few decades or 100 years someone would look into this matter. Currently Mo Qian and her 5 disciples were sitting upright in the domed main hall of the medicine garden within the bottle, motionless, and were cultivating aimlessly, relying on instinct. They had already completely lost their minds, even these actions were commanded by Yang Chen, using the soul-stunning technique. The latest news, however, concerned someone from the junior generation, which had a direct relation to Yang Chen. Green Jade Immortal Island's most talented core disciple, the fairy, in young cultivator's eyes, Zhanxian, had issued a piece of information. Requesting a confrontation between the greatest heaven sect's Li Qingchen and Pure Yang Palace's Yang Chen, in the presence of people to settle a misunderstanding or conflict. What astonished people was that Yang Chen, after leaving the Clear Sky sect, had completely disappeared and hadn't responded to the news. According to Fairy Shai, Yang Chen had already agreed to the confrontation and she was only waiting for Li Qingchen's response. The response from the greatest heaven sect actually startled people even more. Li Qingchen had completely disagreed with Shai Shanshan's request and had even said that Yang Chen had deceived Fairy Shai and directly issued a challenge to Yang Chen, saying that, as soon as Yang Chen appeared, he would immediately go and challenge him. After returning from the Yang family villa to the cultivation world, he had discovered this news. Hearing this, not only was Yang Chen not angry, he was actually filled with joy. Li Qingchen, this person had tried to obstruct Yang Chen in every possible way since he had joined the Pure Yang Palace. He had even used his relationship with Xu Heng to make Xu Heng suppress him. Yang Chen wanted to settle this debt for a long time, but he hadn't found an opportunity, but now that Li Qingchen had taken the initiative to challenge Yang Chen personally, Yang Chen couldn't help but burst out in happy laughter. The last time when the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace had asked Elder Zhu to ask for compensation from the greatest heaven sect, the greatest heaven sect had said that this was a private matter between Yang Chen and Li Qingchen, so the sect would not interfere and they should settle it privately. But Yang Chen knew that, although the greatest heaven sect had said these words, the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace had not desired for Yang Chen to knock on Li Qingchen's door and settle his private grudges. If not for any other reason, but because the influence of the greatest heaven sect was too great. Now however they could not stop Yang Chen, as the perpetrator of this matter was Fairy Shai of the Green Jade Immortal Islands. Although the greatest heaven sect had great power and influence, it could not suppress the Green Jade Immortal Islands. Since he could not blame Shai Shanshan, he could only blame Yang Chen. The problem was that Li Qingchen clearly did not dare to accept the request for the confrontation in presence of people, but had surprisingly used this kind of method to pressure Yang Chen. After hearing the news from the mouth of other cultivators, Yang Chen understood the general situation and since he couldn't do anything at that time, he directly returned to the Pure Yang Palace. In any case, he could not miss this opportunity, since Li Qingchen himself had knocked on his door, Yang Chen certainly did not mind taking care of him forever. How did you buy your way into establishing relations with Wanting? After returning to the second Fierce Yang Hall in Pure Yang Palace, Yang Chen first paid a visit to his master. When Gao Yu saw Yang Chen, the first thing she did was ask this question. Gao Yu could not help becoming concerned. Her only disciple, although he was only at the initial foundation stage, had still given her many things to worry about. Elder Wu still hadn't descended and he had already enlisted Elder Hua Wanting, truly enviable. No, wait for the palace master and the great master to come over, then we will talk about it. Yang Chen knew that, once they heard that he had returned, the palace master and the great master would certainly come to question him, so he didn't want it to say too much. Bao Yu angrily glanced at Yang Chen once and then commanded her servant to go and inform the palace master and Wang Yong. Yang Chen, this disciple of hers, was certainly a troublesome disciple, but at the same time he was also the disciple who didn't cause her any worries, which really made Gao Yu feel conflicted. She considered him troublesome because he dared to provoke anyone, first it was Elder Wu, then it was Elder Hua Wanting. Both were defying stage experts, but he acted recklessly and was also not afraid of being killed by anyone. Saying that he did not cause any trouble was because Gao Yu herself did not need to worry about anything. Cultivation, refining pills, refining tools, spell formations and so on, she completely did not need to bother with any of these things for Yang Chen, since Elder Wu and Elder Hua Wanting had publicly given their support to Yang Chen, so nobody easily dared to create trouble for him. It was as if his master was completely unnecessary, which was part of the cause for Gao Yu's gloominess. But even then, she was extremely satisfied with Yang Chen. She could completely sense the concern and care from Yang Chen. Having a disciple like this, what else could she want? The palace master and Wang Yong arrived very quickly. Especially the palace master, from the time he had heard the news about Elder Hua Wanting, he had been in shock. Yang Chen surprisingly had the good luck of establishing relations with a Dacheng expert again, and the Dacheng stage expert furthermore even owed Yang Chen a favor. This made the palace master exceptionally happy. This also implied that as long as this relationship was used appropriately, it would also establish a good relation between the Pure Yang Palace and the Clear Sky sect. From the Pure Yang Palace's perspective, this only had advantages and no disadvantages. Yang Chen was simply the lucky star of the Pure Yang Palace. from the time he had joined the Pure Yang Palace, regardless of if it was the Shunkai Pill or the Spirit Vein of the Second Fierce Yang Hall, no matter if it was Elder Wu or Elder Hua Wanting, no matter if it was the Hall of Eccentrics or being a third-grade pill concocting master, he had brought a lot of pleasant surprises. Every time something related to Yang Chen happened, it had apparently become a tradition for the palace master and Wang Yong to come to the Second Fierce Yang Hall after Yang Chen returned. The palace master knew that, apart from himself and his master, Yang Chen did not trust the other elders too much, therefore there was no need for other people. Dustam and Yang Chen's master, Gao Yu, were present. After hearing Yang Chen colorfully describe the events with Fairy Shy at the Green Jade Immortal Islands and the matter at the Clear Sky Sect, Gao Yu immediately expressed her dissatisfaction. At what time has Yang Chen used Fairy Shy's name to deal with affairs? Why didn't I know? Gao Yu couldn't bear to see Yang Chen accused wrongly and vented a resentment very strongly. Those are all small matters. Doesn't that youngster of the greatest sky sect already have a guilty conscience? Different from Gao Yu's extreme hatred, the palace master and Wang Yong were more focused on the Dacheng stage expert, Hua Wanting, and the Clear Sky sect. Nobody could believe that Yang Chen could deal with the blood phantom vine with the information from a book containing miscellaneous information. This clearly seemed far-fetched. The blood phantom vine was certainly an extremely formidable object. If someone had records, it would only be within the records of extremely high-level experts in tool refining and pill refining. It was certainly not possible to have it in the hidden pavilion in the Pure Yang Palace. How did you know how to deal with blood phantom vine? The palace master hadn't opened his mouth and was thinking about how to ask this, but the great master, Wang Yong, on the other side, asked with a meaningful glance. He did not interrogate him however, instead, to make him feel secure, he said. You do not need to worry, regardless of whatever method it was, even if you killed someone, your great master will safeguard you. That last line was said to Yang Chen, but actually it was directed at the palace master. In any case, regardless of what Yang Chen had done, no blame could be pushed onto Yang Chen. This is not a great secret, Elder Wu has given this information to me last time. Yang Chen directly pushed the blame onto Elder Wu. It wasn't like anybody could verify it in any case, and even if someone could, Elder Wu would also confirm it. The palace master and Wang Yong suddenly understood everything. It seemed like this was another layer of security which Elder Wu had left for Yang Chen before ascending. In any case, his ascension was imminent and he already didn't need any favors, so he had given Yang Chen this chance, which would also be a sort of protection for Yang Chen. Fortunately, this had happened before Elder Wu's ascension. This really was a great coincidence. What was the matter with Sun Qingshu of the Clear Sky sect? Why did you suddenly remember to look for her? The palace master asked again. Because Elder Wu had warned me of a matter. Yang Chen seized this opportunity to talk about the Long Tai spirit supporting secrets. Regardless of the other sects, Pure Yang Palace could not lose many disciples. Not everyone was like Sun Qingshu, who could still shake up the whole world, even after she had abolished her cultivation once. The palace master very seriously listened to Yang Chen, but within his heart, he had already secretly become alert. That youngster from the greatest heaven sect challenging Yang Chen, how should we settle that? After listening for a long time and seeing that the matter of Yang Chen's challenge had been raised, Gao Yu suddenly asked. Very simple, master. Yang Chen answered with a smile. Ask Hallmaster Zhu to release the news. If Li Qingchen with the strength of the Peak Foundation stage wants to just compare notes, then I admit defeat. If he really wants to challenge me, then it has to be a life and death duel. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 138 He is already doomed to die. These words were the same ones Yang Chen had said to Han Giant of the Tianquan sect at the Heavenly Stairs when he had come, looking for trouble with Yang Chen. At that time, when Han Giant, who had a higher cultivation, had challenged him, Yang Chen had immediately admitted defeat. But who could have known that Yang Chen was not truly admitting defeat and was instead just forcing Han Giant to accept a life and death duel with Yang Chen. Now Yang Chen had used the same words, so surely he had to have some kind of mortal enmity with Li Qingchen. He is at the peak of the foundation stage, Yang Chen, do you have complete confidence? Bao Yu naturally did not wish for Yang Chen, her first disciple, to fight a life and death duel with an expert who was at the peak foundation stage, so she immediately asked, filled with worry. Whether I am confident or not, I must fight. In any case, it's better than making the experts of the greatest heaven sect bear grudges towards me and not allowing me live peacefully from now on. Yang Chen replied with a smile. Why? Bao Yu clearly didn't know the reason for this. Well, the palace master and Wang Yong on the contrary, both nodded with a knowing smile after hearing Yang Chen's words. This movement confused Gao Yu even more. Li Qingchen will never agree to a confrontation with me in front of others because that would certainly make him lose all face. Yang Chen knew that his master had not yet matured to the level of his previous life, where she understood everything. Since she couldn't think of everything, Yang Chen patiently explained it to her. This is also the case for the Greatest Heaven sect. They will absolutely not want a disciple who is sowing discord between two people by distorting the truth. Therefore, they will surely do everything they can to prevent that confrontation. The palace master once again nodded slightly at Yang Chen's words. This is similar to how the sect traitor, Chu Heng, humiliated the sect. As if he had received encouragement, Yang Chen continued. The Greatest Heaven sect would rather send some inferior disciple, as they also would not be willing to allow their sect to be disgraced by a lowly cultivator like me. When comparing the reputation of a person with inferior skills and a person with bad name representing the sect, the former was preferred more by people. After all, a person with inferior skills had a lot of factors against them, so if they were unable to beat the opponent and lost, they would not lose face. As for losing face, it was the reputation of Li Qingchen alone and would not damage the Greatest Heaven sect. Bao Yu understood this point clearly, but she was still slightly doubtful. They are not willing to carry the name of being a loser, so what relation does it have with you not accepting the challenge? Why would the experts bear grudges? If I had not agreed to the challenge and had asked to arrange the confrontation, then Li Qingchen would not be able to avoid losing face, and the Greatest Heaven sect would also become the target of everyone's ridicule. Yang Chen continued explaining with a smile. Under such circumstances, the experts of Greatest Heaven sect, who would not dare to take out their anger on the Green Jade Immortal Islands, will turn towards me, and the result of such an event will be the loss of my life. Bao Yu repeatedly nodded her head hearing after this. Suddenly she couldn't help raising her head to glance at Yang Chen, who was speaking with confidence. This disciple's mind was seemingly clear-headed indeed. But if I promised a life and death duel, that would mean that this is just a private matter between Li Qingchen and me. This way the Greatest Heaven sect will also have a way out of an embarrassing situation. Seeing that his master was looking at him, Yang Chen rejoiced even more. But the attitude of the experts at the Greatest Heaven sect, since it was a private affair, then regardless of whatever the outcome was, they would not meddle too much. Compared to not replying to the challenge and then becoming the target of grudges for the countless experts of the Greatest Heaven sect, I would prefer to fight a life or death duel with Li Qingchen and settle our grudges. Yang Chen knew that Gao Yu had already begun to realize slowly, so his concluding words were simple. Then even if you accept his challenge, what is the need to insist on a life or death duel? Gao Yu was only thinking about Yang Chen's life and death and did not care much about anything else. Because if we do not consider it a matter of life and death, the Green Jade Immortal Island would make us two confront each other, which would be completely unacceptable for the Greatest Heaven sect. Yang Chen helplessly replied. Since the Greatest Heaven sect has already said that this was a personal grudge between us, there was no other way but to issue the challenge to me. In fact, regardless of whether it was a life and death duel or not, for us it would have been the same. So rather than this, I would prefer to formally issue a life or death challenge, which would also give them a way out. Wasn't Elder Hua Wanting very considerate of you? Bao Yu suddenly recalled Hua Wanting's matter, which Yang Chen had said just recently, and hastily asked. If you do not agree, could it be that they would risk angering Elder Hua Wanting by killing you? The Greatest Heaven sect is the only one sect which can ignore Elder Hua Wanting's consideration towards me and accept the life and death challenge to kill me without having to worry about retaliation from Elder Hua Wanting. Yang Chen clearly knew that some matters could not just be settled by a person's determination. In fact, Li Qingchen is very pathetic. He has already been abandoned by the Greatest Heaven sect. Why? Bao Yu asked with suspicion, confused again by Yang Chen's words. Because regardless of the outcome, he cannot escape death. Yang Chen's smile grew large. This was the part that made him most happy. If he wins, I die, and then Li Qingchen will also be executed. On one side to settle Elder Hua Wanting's anger, on the other side for the Greatest Heaven sect to take up the position of placing righteousness before their family and admitting their errors in front of the Clear Sky sect and the Green Jade Immortal Islands. What if you win? Bao Yu asked like a curious kid in front of Yang Chen. If I win, he dies. Yang Chen replied with a smile. But the Greatest Heaven sect will still admit their errors before the Green Jade Immortal Islands, conceding that they accepted an unworthy disciple. Aren't you just saying that the Greatest Heaven sect is not willing to take responsibility for his actions as their disciple? Bao Yu refuted, opening her eyes even wider. They just don't wish to be forced to admit their mistakes, that's all. Yang Chen slowly shook his head. In fact, once the confrontation with Fairy Shy is over, the Greatest Heaven sect will be forced into a corner. Rather than being forced to admit their mistakes, it would be better to admit it by their own initiative. But since any such thing which could make them bow their heads hasn't happened, they also don't wish for it. Therefore, they arranged a challenge to get themselves out of the embarrassing situation. Bao Yu asked angrily. The greatest heaven sect had gone too far by making Yang Chen take the risk for their matters, so how could Gao Yu accept this? Right. Yang Chen nodded his head. Actually, right now many people in the greatest heaven sect are hoping that Li Qingchen dies under my hands, as this is the best possible outcome. With this, they completely don't need to worry about Elder Wu and Elder Hua Wanting's anger, and as long as they hand over a proper compensation to the Clear Sky sect, this matter will be over. While Gao Yu and Yang Chen were conversing, the Palace Master and Great Master Wang Yong were listening to them on the side full of smiles, but did not say anything. The more they heard, the wider the smiles on their faces became. They were looking at Yang Chen and his master as if they were some kind of precious treasures. So, it is because this matter also involves the Green Jade Immortal Islands, otherwise, they would have held the confrontation secretly and would not have had a need to proclaim this confrontation to the whole world, correct? After understanding the reasons Yang Chen had given her, Gao Yu's mind was like an open tap. The more she pondered over this, the more questions she asked. Then aren't they just exploiting you? In his previous life, Gao Yu was a very careful thinker, otherwise she would not have become the palace master of the fierce Yang Hall. Once he heard these words, Yang Chen immediately understood that his master had begun to think over things. This was a good thing. Yang Chen desired for his master to be safe and sound her entire life, but it was also impossible for him to accompany her everywhere, so he wanted her to have the ability to defend herself. Although cultivation was one aspect, another was the ability to precisely judge the circumstances. This was the strongest ability she could rely on for self-defense. The more Gao Yu began to ponder over this matter, the more it implied that her safety increased. Repulsive. How can the Green Jade Immortal Islands be like this? Gao Yu scolded them, feeling aggrieved. How can they just drag in my disciple? Because of the new Da Cheng stage expert at the Clear Sky sect, all big sects, including the Greatest Heaven sect, the Five Phases sect, and the Green Jade Immortal Islands, are feeling pressure. This time, it was not Yang Chen who replied, instead it was the Palace Master. Initially, all big sects were in an equilibrium, but the current problem is that the Green Jade Immortal Islands have to also look for something to maintain the balance. While explaining to Gao Yu, the Palace Master nodded towards Yang Chen in admiration. The words Yang Chen had said just a moment ago simply caught the Palace Master and Wang Yong by surprise. A disciple who had just reached the foundation stage not too long ago could analyze the disagreement between sects so thoroughly. This just made them pleasantly surprised. This kind of intelligence and luck, moreover someone who could also look at the general situation as a whole, such a disciple was simply an innate heavenly talent. At least 90% of Jedan experts in the Pure Yang Palace could not think about such a problem, not to mention the foundation stage or Kai layer disciples. If such a disciple was not properly cultivated, then the Pure Yang Palace could only be called extravagant. Yang Chen, you must go out in the near future and attentively cultivate, waiting for Li Qingchen to drop in and throw away his life. After the Palace Master had explained to Gao Yu, he had turned around to Yang Chen. We will discuss again after this matter has been settled. Yes, Palace Master. Yang Chen hastily bowed and replied. This time, Gao Yu also didn't say anything. She had clearly understood Yang Chen's words, regardless of whether Li Qingchen lived or died, in the end, he would not be able to escape his death. Even the people of the Greatest Heaven sect wanted him to die. His odds of success in this life and death challenge were really very low. Even if Li Qingchen, at the peak of the foundation stage, had a higher cultivation than Yang Chen, who in the Greatest Heaven sect would agree to incur the anger of both Elder Wu and Elder Hua, wanting at the same time. Furthermore, since the Green Jade Immortal Islands were also participating, the Greatest Heaven sect would absolutely not allow the Green Jade Immortal Islands to have their wishes fulfilled, so the best option would be to give up on a peak foundation stage disciple. After finishing the conversation, the Palace Master and Wang Yong didn't stay for much longer and departed together, releasing some information to the other elders. Inside of Gao Yu's room, only Gao Yu and Yang Chen remained. Yang Chen, this Li Qingchen has been focusing on you all along, allowing him to die like this, wouldn't it be very convenient for him? Currently Gao Yu was thinking about this problem from Yang Chen's point of view. She knew everything that Li Qingchen and Chu Heng had done to Yang Chen, therefore she particularly wanted to know what Yang Chen would think about it. Master, did you not realize it? Since the Palace Master and Wang Yong were not in the room anymore, Yang Chen spoke to his master even more freely. Previously, Li Qingchen had asked Chu Heng to deal with this disciple, relying on the power of being an official disciple of the Greatest Heaven sect. But currently, they are expecting him to die. Compared to this, what could be more painful to him? What could be a better revenge than waiting for him to come and throw his life away? What else could be a more wonderful outcome than this? What if he is not willing and instead attacks you, facing death's door? Gao Yu was still somewhat doubtful. She couldn't help it, since this affair involved Yang Chen. This question however did not need Yang Chen to be answered, she herself knew the answer. Since the upper echelons of the greatest heaven sect had decided it, then how would a minor peak foundation stage disciple dare to rebel against that? Once she thought this was the result of scheming and plotting between various sects, Gao Yu couldn't help but feel a wave of anxiety. They would even abandon their sect's disciples without the slightest hesitation. This was simply cruel. Aren't they cultivators who have cultivated meticulously for so long? How can they all be like this? Gao Yu suddenly asked Yang Chen in a tone as if she was speaking to herself. I do not know about others. Yang Chen bluntly said. But you will not. If Gao Yu had been like that, then in his previous life, then why would she have chosen death to defend Yang Chen? How do you know? Gao Yu was quite puzzled at Yang Chen's determined reply. Even I myself don't know. Because you are my master, so I know. Yang Chen casually answered Gao Yu on the surface, but in his heart he secretly added for himself. Because in my previous life, you have already used your life to prove that you are not that kind of person. Then can you change into such a person? Seeing Yang Chen reply so confidently about her, Gao Yu seemed to be very happy and in turn asked Yang Chen. Towards others, maybe. As before, Yang Chen gave a reply which made Gao Yu feel even happier. I will forever not become like that towards master. You will not, but if other people can then what? Gao Yu had seemingly sunk into a line of thought and had begun to drill Yang Chen on this question. Then I will turn into a person who other people cannot abandon. Yang Chen also understood what kind of thoughts Gao Yu was having. If Gao Yu was unable to get over this, then it could cause her to have a heart's devil very easily. Therefore he very patiently straightened things out. But this disciple's achievements and connections with people, they can only select Li Qingchen to die and could not do anything to disciple. With your connections, are you just making friends so that you can have formidable supporters to rely on? Gao Yu's eyes suddenly flashed and she was very resentful towards Yang Chen's attitude of seizing every opportunity. Disciples' cultivation is quite shallow right now, so this is a plan for convenience. Yang Chen smiled. As soon as disciples' cultivation starts rising, then at that time, we can decide who to abandon and who to protect according to our logic. Decide according to our logic. Gao Yu shook her head. Apparently hadn't realized that Yang Chen had used the word our. I will never become such a person. Then you will basically become someone whom the people close to you will not even dare to think of abandoning, regardless of whatever the matter is. Yang Chen said with great heroic spirit. These words of Yang Chen had struck a chord within Gao Yu's heart. She had the nature of advancing bravely in front of all difficulties and wished to control her life by herself and not being controlled by others. She immediately replied with a smile. I like this. We will try to become this sort of people. After she had said this, her tone became even more cheerful, as if she had untied a knot in her heart, otherwise she would have remained entangled with this question. After this troublesome matter had been resolved, her nature had been tempered even more. After realizing this, Gao Yu's smiles became even wider. Master, be at ease. Yang Chen said as if he was replying to Gao Yu, but even more it seemed like he was making a pledge with himself. But disciple here, even if an earth-shattering matter happened, master need not worry, disciple will take care of it. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 139 If you die, I will live on as your widow. What Gao Yu and Yang Chen hadn't seen was that the palace master and Wang Yong, who had been returning, had stopped midway. The palace master found a place to sit down and then put up a restriction spell. Then the palace master said to Wang Yong, who had been following just behind him. Senior disciple, this grand disciple of yours really leaves people speechless. Are you envious? Wang Yong and the palace master were fellow apprentices, so in private they were more casual than when they were in front of people. Being envious is useless, it was just my good luck that I have such a good grand disciple. Yes, Yang Chen's fortune can make people go mad with envy. Palace master did not hide his jealousy, but he was only envious towards Yang Chen and not envious of Wang Yong. Having good fortune is also a skill. Wang Yong was trying to safeguard his grand disciple in every possible way, but when hearing the palace master's bare jealousy, he paid no mind to it. The palace master was unlikely to do anything to Yang Chen because of a little jealousy. He is greatly pushing himself. The palace master shook his head. The largest trees catch the most wind. After this challenge, for the time being, don't allow him to go out to train, so that others don't harm him. Staying at the sect is also good. Only, should we let him do what he wants? Wang Yong completely consented to this point if a talent showed off excessively, making people secretly envious, even with great fortune, who could say when a person's luck would run out. Although the big sects were extremely polite and amiable on the surface, if the times demanded it, they would not hesitate to backstab, like the Greatest Heaven sect had done towards the Five Phases sect, or like the Green Jade Immortal Islands had done to the Greatest Heaven sect. Spirit power of the 5 attributes at the foundation stage, and he is also extremely well educated and knowledgeable, so surely guiding the outer disciples has to be enough. Apparently the palace master had already thought this through. Yes. Wang Yong nodded, being a merit-transferring disciple at the Nine Earth Manor, Yang Chen would have to remain at Myking Mountain within the territory of the Pure Yang Palace. If he did not have to face some calamity on the level of having his family exterminated, it would be just impossible for him to go out. Not to speak of the fact that he also didn't have to worry about security, these arrangements made by the palace master were extremely brilliant and did indeed make use of people to the greatest extent. Yang Chen didn't know that he was already confined in one place under disguise by the palace master and Wang Yong in such a short time. After he had settled his issues and consolidated his realm for such a long time, the foundation realm of the complete 5 phases of yin and yang secrets had been fully consolidated so he could attempt to break through to the next realm. However, before that Yang Chen had to settle his dispute with Li Qingchen. After 2 months Yang Chen and Gao Yu appeared on a small island in the territory of the Green Jade Immortal Islands. This island was a region which was decided for his life and death duel with Li Qingchen. Li Qingchen was also there with a Jidan stage expert of the Greatest Heaven sect. A duel between 2 foundation stage youngsters to settle their personal grudges was still unworthy for any high-level expert to witness, not to mention traveling here. What was unexpected was that 2 Yuanying stage experts had appeared from the side of the host, the Green Jade Immortal Islands, as well as the concerned party, very shy. Among the 2 Yuanying stage experts, one was Guan Yuing with whom Yang Chen had already crossed swords once, the other was someone he didn't know, but the other expert seemingly had some relationship with Li Qingchen. Yang Chen, I am sorry. Before the duel had begun, under the hateful gaze of Li Qingchen, Zhanxian walked to Yang Chen and apologized to him. Yang Chen could clearly see that Zhanxian was not acting like an unreasonable person who could easily be duped like before. This sentence clearly proved that she had borrowed Yang Chen's name to deal with Li Qingchen in the previous matter. With regards to the apology from the cold plum fairy of the future, Yang Chen began to feel slightly bitter. If it were not for Li Qingchen, Yang Chen would not have received so much trouble at the Pure Yang Palace. Sure, Yang Chen only treated his experience as troublesome and not as life and death crisis to temper himself. But he also knew that, with Zhanxian's cold personality and her nature of not easily communicating with other people, the cause of everything would have been how Zhanxian had treated Li Qingchen, who had thought that his love was being reciprocated. And again, not all of this could be completely blamed on Zhanxian. In the future, don't drag me into your affairs. Since settling this time's affairs still depended on the intentions of the Green Jade Immortal Islands, Yang Chen did not intend to nag too much on this matter, so after saying this, he closed his eyes and began to rest, no longer paying any attention to his surroundings. Seeing Yang Chen's attitude towards her, Zhanxian was astonished within her heart. From the time she had entered the Green Jade Immortal Islands until now, she had been constantly pursued by people and had never seen a male fellow Taoist like Yang Chen treat her so coldly. This was both new and odd for her at the same time, though it was while was still feeling guilty. Speaking of which, it seemed like Yang Chen still hadn't completely understood the situation. You must be careful. Zhanxian said with an unvarying expression, in low voice. Li Qingchen is related to my sect's elder Li Yunyu and has received pointers from her, so by all means you must be extremely careful in this life and death duel. This information seemed slightly troublesome to Yang Chen. If the situation was like this and he killed Li Qingchen, then the Pure Yang Palace and Green Jade Immortal Islands could be in disagreement rather than being put into trouble with the Greatest Heaven sect. But at this moment, the arrow had already been released from the bow, so other matters would have to be put off until this one was settled. Regardless of whoever was behind Li Qingchen, it was impossible for Yang Chen to use his own life to make up for it, Li Qingchen had to die. This matter has arisen because of me, if you fail in the challenge. Saying this, Zhanxian suddenly bit her lip, the color of her face turned red, and finally, after making her resolve, clenching her teeth she said. If you lose here, then I will live as your widow. After saying this, Zhanxian directly turned around and left, without waiting for Yang Chen's reaction, and returned back to the side of Elder Guan Yuing. Bowing her head, she again resumed her cool and elegant appearance, and then stood calmly. Many people had come to watch the fight, but all of them were standing slightly far. Since the duel hadn't begun yet, no one dared to use their spiritual awareness and risk provoking the 2 Yuanying stage experts. Although Zhanxian had said this in a low voice, the few people near them, including 2 people from the Greatest Heaven sect, the 2 Yuanying stage experts from Green Jade Immortal Islands and Gao Yu, had all heard her words clearly. Yang Chen was also startled. Widow. What did this mean? Among ordinary people, it referred to a wife who did not marry again after her husband was dead or a woman who did not marry for her whole life after her fiancé was dead. Among cultivators, this meant not looking for a Tao companion after their Tao companion was dead. The problem is, did Yang Chen have such a relationship with Zhanxian? How could Zhanxian say such a thing? Bang. While Yang Chen's side still hadn't recovered from their astonishment, Li Qingchen had already gone berserk due to anger. Without waiting for the agreed upon time, he started approaching Yang Chen while shouting loudly. Yang Chen, you die for me. Not just Yang Chen and Li Qingchen, but Guan Yuing, Li Yunyu, the two Yuning stage experts and Yang Chen's master, Gao Yu, were completely stunned hearing Zhanxian's words. Zhanxian had simply expressed her opinion, she did not think Yang Chen had much of a chance of winning this duel. This was completely normal as Li Qingchen was at the peak of the foundation stage, a core disciple of the greatest heaven sect, still under the guidance of a Yuning stage expert. His cultivation was unfathomably deep. On the contrary, Yang Chen had only built his foundation not too long ago, and he was moreover a disciple of a second-rate sect. When Yang Chen was just an executioner, Li Qingchen was already training and traveling with Zhanxian. Although she did not know the exact troubles Yang Chen had faced later, Li Qingchen must have given him many troubles, she was completely sure of this, therefore she had come to this conclusion. Just as Zhanxian had said, she thought this matter was because of her, therefore she had to take responsibility. Previously, Guan Yuing had guided her regarding the problem in this field, if she did not obtain a thorough understanding of Yang Chen, then Zhanxian would give in to her heart's devil and would be unable to extricate herself. Since it was already hopeless for Yang Chen, Zhanxian might as well prepare herself for living as Yang Chen's widow, this calmed her feelings. Guan Yuing clearly understood the feelings in Zhanxian's heart, but she hadn't expected that Zhanxian would surprisingly put out such resolve. She also hadn't discussed this with Guan Yuing and had assumed the identity of Yang Chen's widow all by herself. Once she remembered how Yang Chen had dealt with her, a Yuning stage expert, so easily, Guan Yuing couldn't help but issue a bitter laugh. Zhanxian, this stupid child, why did she make such a vow? If Yang Chen was certain that he would lose, why would he initiate a life and death duel? On the other side, Li Yunyu had completely different thoughts. She had long ago decided to make Zhanxian and this descendant of her clan Dao companions. Therefore, she had all along spared no efforts in helping Li Qingchen gain a favorable impression in Zhanxian's eyes. This time, Zhanxian had gone too far saying such words. This was simply trashing her face. At this moment, Li Yunyu was even angrier than Li Qingchen. Zhanxian had clearly expressed her intentions, even if Yang Chen died here, she would never become Li Qingchen's Dao companion. With the efforts of so many years going to waste, how could it not make Elder Li feel bottomless anger? Gao Yu was completely stunned and then worry began to rise. She absolutely had not anticipated that Zhanxian would surprisingly say such words. If the Green Jade Immortal Island's Li Yunyu was left out of consideration, then Yang Chen held the upper hand in this challenge and was completely out of danger. But with the sudden appearance of this Yuning stage expert on the scene, nobody was sure what would happen next. Under that constant worry, Gao Yu was also greatly proud. Her disciple was really outstanding, even the world-famous Fairy Shai had taken the initiative to become his widow. If Yang Chen did not die, then wouldn't it mean that he had got an exceptionally good Dao companion? But after feeling complacent, Gao Yu also felt a little angry, apparently everything she liked was always snatched by other people, this was very uncomfortable. This sensation had only lasted for a split second before Li Qingchen's loud voice woke her up. Surprisingly, before the appointed time had come, he had already attacked. A swordlight like a great general was flying rushed towards Yang Chen. Despicable. Gao Yu loudly cursed. Just as she was about to block it, she suddenly felt a wave of killing intent and was forced to put in all her strength to deal with it. The killing intent had come from Green Jade Immortal Island's Li Yunyu. After finding that Gao Yu had the intention to block it, Li Yunyu pressed down on Gao Yu by using her spiritual awareness. Since this was a life and death duel between Yang Chen and Li Qingchen, others could not casually interfere. But Yang Chen just calmly raised his head, his hands had already gripped onto the immortal beheading blade. Taking a step forward to meet the flying sword, he raised the blade high and slashed towards the sword light. Humph, who taught this youngster? He can't even use a flying sword. What is he doing, using a blade to show his strength? Before the outcome of the clash was clear, Li Yunyu ridiculed Yang Chen. If she had only said this, then it would not be of much concern, but when she said this she used spirit power to carry her voice far. All people in the surroundings clearly heard this, including Yang Chen. This kind of method of disturbing someone's mental state was definitely considered to be a disgusting trick to interfere from the outside, but she was not concerned in the least about how other people viewed her. Even if everyone thought it was despicable, Li Yunyu was a Yuning stage expert and this was the territory of the Green Jade Immortal Islands, so who would dare to say anything against her? But the most regretful thing was that some matters could not distract a determined person, even such tricks, in front of absolute strength, they were a mere joke. Ding. Accompanying Li Yunyu's ridiculing words was an extremely melodious sound, as well as a dazzling spark. The blade in Yang Chen's hand had accurately slashed at the flying sword. The immensely powerful strike had directly thrown the flying sword to the ground. The flying sword only controlled by spiritual awareness against the blade in Yang Chen's hand which was controlled both by spiritual awareness and his physical body, the superior one was obvious. Speaking of spiritual awareness, Yang Chen was already at the peak of the Jidan stage, while Li Qingchen was only at the peak of the foundation stage, the difference between them was an entire realm. Speaking of strength, Yang Chen's body had been nourished by the blood of countless immortals, so his strength had reached outrageous levels. Speaking of the quality of flying swords, the immortal beheading blade was a weapon which had taken a peak Jidan expert several hundred years to refine, so how could Li Qingchen's flying sword, which he had only received a few decades ago from Li Yunyu compare to it? Sparks flew in all directions, and a big nick appeared in Li Qingchen's flying sword. As for Li Qingchen, who had an extremely close connection with his destined flying sword, he released a loud shout, as if, when the flying sword was damaged, his spiritual awareness also suffered heavy losses. But Yang Chen never had the habit of showing mercy to an enemy, after the first slash, he rushed forward, and while his body was in the air, he had raised the immortal beheading sword again. After his foot reached the ground, Yang Chen was already 3 feet in front of Li Qingchen. His immortal beheading blade chopped down fiercely, without showing any mercy. Li Qingchen immediately sensed danger, and resisting the pain from the wounds in his spiritual awareness with great difficulty, he released the defenses on his body. Immediately, a faintly discernible armor appeared on his body, and at the same time, many flickering light balls appeared in Li Qingchen's hand. Even an evil grin appeared on his face. "You cannot." A loud cry of fear immediately echoed. The owner of the voice was none other than Elder Li Yunyu, who had mocked Yang Chen just a few moments ago. But this time, her voice was full of pleading. People didn't know to whom she was saying this. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 140. Since he didn't die, what now? The people watching in the surroundings didn't know, and even Gao Yu and Zhanxian, who were standing nearby, didn't know whom Li Yunyu had shouted those words to. Yang Chen was currently in the winning position, as his slash was very fierce and powerful. But Li Qingchen had also unleashed a high-level armor and was moreover holding a silver ball, which was some kind of unknown magic weapon, supposedly his means to strike back. So even among them, they were unable to determine whom these words were said to. But Guan Yuying knew that Li Yunyu's shout was meant for Yang Chen. The might of that one slash, although other people couldn't see it, she and Li Yunyu, the 2 Yuning stage experts, were able of determining it properly. Not to mention that Li Qingchen had hurriedly unleashed that body and soul protecting armor, even if he had his flying sword and had used its full strength, he may not necessarily be able to resist that strike from Yang Chen. That one chop from Yang Chen just a moment ago on that flying sword had clearly illustrated the terrifying might of the immortal beheading blade, but Li Qingchen hadn't admitted to this point. Hearing Li Yunyu's yell, Li Qingchen instinctively believed that this was to stop him from utilizing that bowl in his hand. It had to be known that this was 8th Metal God Thunder, refined personally by Li Yunyu. As long as he used it, not to mention a foundation stage junior, even if it was a Yuning stage expert, if he didn't die, he would only barely survive. But Li Qingchen immediately understood the meaning behind Li Yunyu's shout. He was too close to Yang Chen, if he used the 8th Metal God Thunder there, it could only end in the mutual destruction of both of them. Thinking this, Li Qingchen immediately hesitated for a moment. But this one moment decided who would remain alive and who would die. Yang Chen's immortal beheading blade ruthlessly chopped at the center of Li Qingchen's head. The illusory armor noiselessly shattered like glass. Yang Chen's strike chopped directly from the top of Li Qingchen's head to the soles of his feet. He was divided in one strike. When Yang Chen snatched the silver ball from Li Qingchen's hand, the left and right parts of Li Qingchen's corpse separated and fell on either side. "Youngster, you dare." Li Yunyu didn't dare to believe everything that she had seen. She had already shouted to stop this, but Yang Chen had surprisingly still killed him. This was simply not giving her, a Yuning stage expert, any face. In her anger, she immediately took out her flying sword. "Junior apprentice sister." From one side, Guan Yuying shouted loudly, creasing her brows. Her voice contained traces of oscillating spiritual awareness, which immediately woke up the berserk Li Yunyu. The oscillating spiritual awareness was something Guan Yuying was very proud of. The last time she had used this was on Yang Chen, which had injured him. Only this time she had used it on Li Yunyu. Guan Yuying's loud shout immediately made Li Yunyu clear-headed, only then did she realize what she was trying to do. Yang Chen and Li Qingchen were in the middle of a life and death duel, so how could Yang Chen stop his hand just because of Li Yunyu's shout? But although she thought this, Li Yunyu still absolutely couldn't accept that Li Qingchen, whom she had trained for several years, had been killed in just 2 strikes. She also couldn't believe that the flying sword which she had personally refined had been broken in 1 strike by Yang Chen's blade, and furthermore, the body-protecting armor she had prepared for Li Qingchen, shattering in 1 strike. What was most unacceptable for her was that her own clan junior had been chopped in half in front of her. The fierce anger almost made her lose reason and directly go and kill Yang Chen on the scene. Guan Yuying had promptly obstructed her from going berserk as she could not tolerate what Li Yunyu was going to do. There were many people watching in the surroundings. If Li Yunyu had really went through with it, there was no other option than killing all people there. But one thing Guan Yuying was completely certain about was that even if Li Yunyu had tried to kill Yang Chen, she certainly wouldn't have succeeded. Although Yang Chen may be unable to defeat Li Yunyu, if he decided to flee, even 10 Li Yunyus would not have been able to chase after him. Guan Yuying had experienced this personally. What's more, Guan Yuying was not sure if Li Yunyan would even be Yang Chen's opponent if he was completely serious. Seeing the strange pattern which Yang Chen had exposed, if Li Yunyu had really attacked him by going against rules, then maybe the Green Jade Immortal Islands would have to face extermination. Although she was not sure, Guan Yuying felt that there was certainly a connection between Yang Chen and the anomaly with the spirit power of the Green Jade Immortal Islands recently. After all, the timing of Yang Chen appearing and the event occurring was a great coincidence. After he had chopped Li Qingchen, disregarding how others thought of him, Yang Chen stepped forward and first grabbed Li Qingchen's pouch, throwing it into his belt. The advantages had always been his first priority, and there also had been no rules prohibiting him from collecting his spoils after the life and death duel. While he did not let go of the silver bowl in his hand, his spiritual awareness was constantly fixed on Li Yunyu. Once he had touched the ball, he immediately knew what it was, so he was not putting the ball away, precisely because of the fear that Li Yunyu would go berserk. Only after looking at Guan Yuying Dominator, his heart eased a little bit. The spectators were very excited. The life and death duel between a peak foundation stage and an initial foundation stage cultivator had surprisingly been so simple, but the result had been so unexpected, which had made all of them unable to believe what they had seen. Have my eyes gone blind just a moment ago? How could this happen? What kind of spiritual weapon does he have? Hello, Daoist Li couldn't even stand a blow. Countless gasps, guesses, doubts, puzzled voices were rising continuously. Nobody could accept this result. Obviously, a peak foundation stage expert had a higher cultivation, so how could he die in the hands of an initial foundation stage cultivator? In such conditions, what kind of meaning did their cultivation even have? The higher realm was unable to defeat a lower realm. Furthermore, some people who had relations with the greatest heaven sect started shouting another version. He must have used some kind of devil technique, otherwise how is this possible? You cheat, what method did you use? Within this unnecessary racket, everyone discovered one thing. The Jidan expert who had accompanied Li Qingchen surprisingly did not say a single word. And while everyone was commenting, under everyone's astonished gazes, he silently collected Li Qingchen's corpse. Everyone quieted down when they saw that the Jidan expert went and sat down not too far from Yang Chen. Apparently he had to speak to him to keep up appearances, so nobody dared to open their mouths for the fear of disturbing them. This life and death duel is the loss of my greatest heaven sect's disciple. The Jidan expert calmly cupped his hands. This is a personal grudge between you two which didn't have any relation with either sect. My greatest heaven sect will not bear grudges towards you for this reason. Fellow Taoist Yang, congratulations. For every grievance someone is responsible, for every debt there is a debtor. A life and death duel can't be blamed on anyone. Yang Chen also cupped his hands. The greatest heaven sect really has the charisma of a big sect, assuming responsibility. I really admire you. Flattery was also necessary sometimes. Speaking like this gave the greatest heaven sect a way out, so Yang Chen would also not mind speaking these few words. Since there was a variable like Li Yunyu present, he still didn't know what would happen. Right now the person who was most embarrassed was none other than Zhanxian. In her opinion, there was no doubt that Yang Chen would die this time. Leaving aside the matter of cultivation, Li Qingchen also had magical weapons specially prepared by Li Yunyu, which were not something Yang Chen could compare with. But who could have known that the result would be this? Because of Guan Yuying's guidance, Zhanxian had realized the error in the method she had used to deal with Li Qingchen, so she felt extremely guilty towards Yang Chen. Initially Zhanxian had intended to continue with the opportunity of the confrontation so that Yang Chen could restore his name and at the same time, adding her apology and some compensation should be enough to make Yang Chen understand. But who could have known that such a small matter would spread so widely in the cultivation world, and she herself didn't know the reason. Li Qingchen was a family member of Li Yunyu, therefore the Green Jade Immortal Islands had decided to hide a lot of information from Li Yunyu, and the same was the case with Guan Yuying. So it was even more impossible for Zhanxian to know. Li Qingchen had a guilty conscience, so he did not agree to the confrontation and instead initiated a challenge. What was most out of Zhanxian's expectations was that Yang Chen would actually ask for a life and duel with Li Qingchen. This made her blame herself even more. While constantly thinking Yang Chen would die, she decided to become his widow under the guilt. The problem was that Yang Chen was perfectly well and alive now, so Zhanxian did not have the opportunity to become a widow. But these words were indeed greatly dubious. Ordinary people used it for their husband and fiancé, and cultivators use it for their Dao companions, so how should Zhanxian deal with this? Just while she was thinking about how to deal with embarrassment, Yang Chen turned towards her, which made Zhanxian feel even more ashamed and resentful at the same time. The more she looked at Yang Chen coming near her, the more annoying her heartbeat became. She was thinking of saying something, but she could not open her mouth and was extremely anxious. Very shy, you must not joke like that again. Yang Chen smiled towards Zhanxian and didn't forcibly seize the opportunity, only cupping his hands. Still in the future, this Yang would be grateful if you did not involve me in these kinds of affairs in the future. After he had finished speaking, without waiting for Zhanxian's response, Yang Chen immediately turned and started walking in his master's direction. The color on Zhanxian's face alternated between red and white for a good moment, looking at Yang Chen already walking towards Gao Yu, she didn't know why she was feeling uneasy, suddenly she yelled. Although Zhanxian is an ordinary woman, I will still do as promised. This affair has happened because of me, so I cannot avoid taking responsibility, I will certainly not take back the words I have said. After she had shouted this, without caring for the two Yuaning stage cultivators nearby, Zhanxian immediately called out her flying sword and flew towards her island. Leaving behind a large group of people looking at each other in dismay, not knowing what the matter was. Yang Chen nearly stumbled. What did Zhanxian mean by these words? Was she admitting that she was his Dao companion? Other people hadn't heard Zhanxian's words, but Guan Yuying, Li Yunyu, Gao Yu, Yang Chen as well as the Jidan stage expert from the Greatest Heaven sect had clearly heard them. Seeing Zhanxian going like this, the Jidan expert from Greatest Heaven sect had an expression of schadenfreude and cupped his hands towards Yang Chen. Very shy is incomparably beautiful and elegant, fellow Taoist Yang, congratulations. After he had congratulated Yang Chen, that Jidan expert bid his farewell to Gao Yu, Guan Yuying and Li Yunyu and quickly departed. The crowd was also not as lively as before and were quietly discussing the amazing fight that had happened just a moment ago while departing. Only the master and disciple, Gao Yu and Yang Chen, as well as the two Yuaning stage experts, Guan Yuying and Li Yunyu, were left behind. Senior Guan. Yang Chen knew that the matter had still not been resolved and would bring him even more troubles in the future, so he could only cup his hands to greet Guan Yuying, whom he was familiar with. You need not take Fairy Shy's words seriously if Senior could persuade her on my behalf. Just after saying that, Yang Chen was cut off by Guan Yuying. Words spoken are like a loose arrow, a disciple of my Green Jade Immortal Islands has never said something like this before so many people and later not admitted it. Fellow Taoist Yang, you have a future full of promises, will Zhanxian disgrace you? In front of Yang Chen, Guan Yuying did not exaggerate his strength and only said that his future had boundless prospects. Although she had used the excuse that a disciple of the Green Jade Immortal Islands would not break her word, Guan Yuying also had some selfish motives. If this matter raised some improper opinion of Yang Chen against the Green Jade Immortal Islands, then that would be a great inconvenience. On the contrary, with Zhanxian's accidental promise, maybe she could play matchmaker. If that happened, with Zhanxian's previous words, nobody would force her to become their Dao companion in the future, which would resolve a great inconvenience. Also, if Yang Chen truly was the sort of person which she had guessed and he also had the boundless prospects he seemed to have, then there would only be benefits and no disadvantages for the Green Jade Immortal Islands and Zhanxian. As for Yang Chen, Zhanxian had a reputation of being beautiful and alluring throughout the whole world, otherwise people would not start calling her Cold Plum Fairy in the future. Her sex junior, regardless if it was cultivation talent or beauty, everything was far above average and she was furthermore from a prestigious sect, so she was absolutely capable of mating with Yang Chen. Yang Chen hadn't anticipated that Guan Yuying would say this. Other than a surprised yell, he was completely speechless. Since fellow Taoist Gao is Yang Chen's master, then why doesn't fellow Taoist Gao try to convince him? Guan Yuying turned towards Gao Yu's side. We should both report this to our sect masters so that they can set a date to betroth Yang Chen and Zhanxian, what do you think? What? Bao Yu was baffled thinking about how this matter could have developed so fast. She had to decide so suddenly, but she was also somewhat amazed. Fellow Taoist Gao doesn't have to feel awkward about this matter. Guan Yuying knew that they first had to have Yang Chen's approval and continued speaking. But my Green Jade Immortal Island's disciple will never eat her words. Cultivators attach most importance to the law of karma. Yang Chen, if you are not willing, then we cannot force you, but Zhanxian will also N0T look for another companion and will live this life alone. You should do your best. After she finished speaking, not waiting for Yang Chen to reply, she took a long sigh. Alas, poor Zhanxian. Immediately afterwards, she pulled Li Yunyu, who was staring at Yang Chen with incessant hatred, and disappeared. What the hell? Yang Chen's brows almost linked together, forming a line. How could it be that the cold plum fairy didn't have any suitors? If she called out once, then the line of people would extend from the Green Jade Immortal Islands to the Pure Yang Palace. Why did they decide it to be him? Only two people, Yang Chen and his master, were left on the island, so Yang Chen turned around to look at Gao Yu. Just at that time, Gao Yu also looked at Yang Chen, the master and disciple looked at each other with dismay in their eyes. If you're enjoying the content, please give it a like, comment, and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.